Story.
You're really wrestling that tune to the ground.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Superhero Speak. I'm your host Dave.
And I'm John.
Story.
Oh God! As I said before, you were really wrestling that into the ground, man.
That's what I do. I wrestle.
Oh my
I
God!
love this movie and I love this song. I'm so excited that nothing else happened this week.
Except the fact that almost every single person I know either has a family member or they themselves have the flu or walking pneumonia.
Guilty as
crazy out there.
charged. My wife
Yeah,
has
don't-
my wife has walking pneumonia. My kid has actual pneumonia. It's bad right now.
My next door neighbor had it. People at work have it. I don't know what the hell is going on. I've never seen it this prevalent
I
before.
don't have pneumonia, but I do have a cold, and my right ear is clogged, and I can't hear anything in my right ear right now.
Oh, then I'll just keep singing in your right ear.
Oh, that's sweet.
Just stop when you get halfway to this other side. I started with the flu 4 weeks ago, and now I've got pneumonia. So I'm on the tail end of it, I hope. But Jesus criminy, man, this is ridiculous.
Is that how you're doing, John?
Pretty much. I probably look like hell. I haven't slept in over a month, because I keep waking up in cold sweats because the flu and pneumonia suck.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah. That's what we developers would normally say if I were a quarter of my age. Anyway.
Anything new with you this week besides being sick?
No, I'd have to say no. I went to see Godzilla -1 again last night with my next door neighbor. Yeah, I'm totally worth it too. There's more you can gain out of it.
Yeah.
And it was well worth it. I
definitely
up to 50
agree.
million now.
I definitely agree with a movie like that. You can watch it multiple times to get new stuff because, let's be honest, I'm old, I read slow, and there might be stuff I missed the first time.
Well, I got everything the first time, but there's
old.
there's certain scenes that you get more out of because of how much they packed into the character development in this. And it's up to what is it up to? Oh geez.
No good.
Domestic is okay, so America domestic 25 million, and then in Japan 26 million, and everywhere else it's
They're disputing the budget. They reported 15 million. They said, I wish it was that much.
Yeah.
So,
worldwide is 52 million now.
dude, that's a success.
For a Japanese
Godzilla movie, for a Japanese movie like this. We're not talking about Marvel here. Cheap budget, and it's second about the domestic box office this weekend behind The Boy and the Heron, right? So the Japanese culture wins this week.
Yep.
Have you seen that yet, John?
The Boy and the Heron? No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it looks good. When Andy and I went and saw Godzilla, they had a trailer for that, and I went, "Ooh, Miyazaki! I haven't seen Miyazaki in a while." And I do. I'm the anti-anime guy, but who doesn't like a Miyazaki movie? Come on.
Yeah.
It's impossible. If you've seen Princess Mononoke, you're like, okay, I get it.
Howl's Moving Castle is one of my favorites.
Howl's Moving Castle,
and Spirited Away, yeah.
They're all awesome. So I'm like, well, gonna have to take the kid to see this one too, because it looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, what else is new with you, JD? Anything?
We had a tremendous wrestling loss this weekend. I was just horribly horrified and miserable, and I'm spoiled because we're usually pretty good. So that was rough. Other
Did you
than
at
that,
least have Andy breathe on the other team to get him back?
I should have. Wasn't prepared. Didn't know he was sick at the time. No, he was supposed to have his first tournament this weekend, and I took him because we broadcasted a basketball game because my broadcasting program at school. We did first basketball game of the year. Had fun. He was fine. Came home, coughed up until he threw up.
Ugh.
And the wife's like, "Hey, I'm going to take him to the doctor." So I said, "Okay." And then she texts me back, "He has pneumonia." And I came home
Yeah,
and I let him crawl into bed with me, and he threw up again. So
kids
I was like,
kids rarely show that they have pneumonia until they get to that point.
"Well, he's still like we went to practice tonight, but he didn't practice. He just got it because picture day. So he got his picture taken. I'm like, it's time to go home. And I turn around and he's wrestling his friends. I'm like, no, you're sick. You're going home right now.
Oh,
Come
dear.
on. So he was like,
Yeah.
fine, fine.
He's now known as Patient Zero.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a pneumonia. So I mean, like he was walking around with the rhinovirus for a month beforehand.
Well,
Yeah.
pneumonia, like bacterial pneumonia, is not transmissible. Really, it's whatever causes that to happen.
Which in
whatever
this case was rhinovirus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's some, I wasn't surprised. Well, I was surprised, but I knew where it came from. So, got some friends that are nurses, and so got them advice, and it is what it is. Other than that, I'm just getting, like I said, I was hanging out with the kid yesterday, and I was doing my grad school finals, getting ready for finals for school, and then I got my own finals the next week, and there's a lot going on. And last night I'm sitting there and working, and I'm watching him, and I'm working on my final, and I just start hearing the music going through my head, right? And I'm hearing like
Jesus,
that rhythm. And all of a sudden it just pops in my head. Just a steel town girl on a Saturday night, getting ready for the fight of her life. And I stopped and like, why the fuck am I singing Maniac to myself while I work? Apparently I thought I was from Flashdance. I don't know.
At least it wasn't the NeverEnding Story again.
It could be. Turn around. Hello, Kassan Warren.
Hi, Kassan. We'll make him stop singing as soon as you let us know that the pain starts. It's
in her face. I can't wait to talk about this film.
Oh my god.
I love this song. I love this movie. I just thank you. I mean, there was nothing else going on. Dave fought me for weeks on this. And he finally relented because nothing happened this week. So,
No,
how are you?
nothing
I
is
have
significant.
Nothing.
I have a good idea for our next one, but
Like I said, I got a cold.
Behind the green door?
Huh?
Nothing.
Oh, John.
It's a deep cut for someone.
No.
And I got the
We'll talk about it
bulk of my Christmas shopping done, so I'm happy about that, And my son was easy; he wanted a new phone, so that got taken care of.
Team blue text or team green text?
Oh, what a stupid thing that is! Freaking.
Samsung Galaxy S23.
Yep, Android all the way.
The XL, I guess it is. That's the larger one, so it's like a phablet. He wanted because he does a lot of art, and he has an idea. He wants to be able to draw it on his phone and whatnot. And it comes with a stylus and all that stuff. So, he looked at iPhones, and they don't have ones that work with styluses.
No, they really don't. The stylus, Apple's really kind of fought that whole thing the whole way. They really don't want you doing that. I do have a kid in one of my classes though who's got an iPad with a stylus that works for it. She does pretty cool stuff, so it works.
Yeah, but he's not going to make phone calls on an iPad.
You could make phone calls on that.
You can, but
I don't know why you would, but you could.
S23 Ultra, I just got the same for my wife last week. Yes, thank you, Kassan. It's Ultra.
Heathens.
Nice.
All of you heathens.
Oh my god, I don't get the people complain about the text. I mean, I now have an iPhone, but I still it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I don't really care.
Philistine.
You'll have to explain it to me. I don't get why it bothers.
Text messages, the iMessage. Like if you send pictures, like if you have a group thread, right, and you've got one person in the group thread who's on Android, and you try to send pictures or videos between you guys, it doesn't come the same.
I don't have group threads with people though on my phone.
Oh. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I give up. Green bubbles. There you go. Thank you, Soul Wizard. Disgusting.
Yep.
I do.
Aesthetically, it's disgusting. Thank you.
Well, that's the point. That's the whole point.
Exactly. And it works psychologically.
My daughter even said something about that too, because she's an iPhone person. She said something about, "Oh yay, now you'll be blue text." I'm like, what does that mean? I don't get it.
This doesn't look good in your text. You got all these blue texts. You got this one green one. Like aesthetically, it's not pleasing.
It means you brought the right phone.
But anyway, that was my week. Nothing too exciting. Watched a old movie, questioned my life choices, and
Got sad about a horse dying again.
oh my god,
Remembering childhood trauma.
JD, you know it's only Kassan says JD, you know it's only green bubbles from the iPhone. For the Android device, it's all blue. But you know, people don't matter. Look behind me; it's all blue. I'm saying that for you people on the podcast, for the people listening to this on podcast, my video has a blue background.
All right,
I'm an iPhone guy, and blue is aesthetically pleasing.
The other thing is, between not feeling well and getting stuff ready for Christmas and all that stuff, I haven't been on social media much.
You ain't missed much.
I do have a couple things for social media madness. First off, okay, remember last week we talked about Chris Evans saying he would be up to return. Like, no one's talked to him, but he would be up to returning for the role.
Right. Yeah, I did.
You know. So yeah, we had a couple people comment on that. The first one, of course, being Random Randy Savage from Colt 45. He said, "What? You mean Steve Rogers and the Return of the Stones is not even an idea floating around? The Adventures of Steve returning the Stones to the timeline, fighting Red Guardian, helping Isaiah Bradley, but then wiping his memory, fighting space aliens with Quake and AOS."
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No one cares about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I did for a little bit, and then it got a little crazy.
Randy does. He still loves.
They stopped caring.
So he said Steve Rogers going back in time with the Stones, and I immediately thought he meant the Rolling Stones. And imagine Steve Rogers, traveling with Mick and Keith.
Everyone talks about that. Like, he leaves with the Stones, and then he just shows up as an old person at the end. Like,
there's a lot of ground to cover there.
There is a lot of ground to cover for Steve Rogers. Like,
a huge story.
Yeah,
he's super handsome and comes back Joe Biden. I mean, there's a lot that went on in between there.
Oh,
tell me he doesn't look like Joe Biden in that scene.
Okay, wait.
I
that's
cannot
too close.
It's not a political statement. That's what he looks like.
It's too.
No,
close
it is kind of.
It's too close to politics.
What are you doing? We don't do that here.
The man looked like Joe Biden in the scene. Old man Chris Evans looks kind of like Joe Biden. It turns.
That wasn't political. That was just kind
it's
of
just an observation. I was sitting in the theater going, "Looks like Joe Biden."
And then we had MVP Steph Sab chime in.
A lot going on there.
I'm sorry. She says he actually said that he isn't interested right now, but that if he did it, that it would need to be something very special because it's very protective of the character. Like,
actually, it's what he said was.
I could hear her pushing her glasses up as she typed that.
Well, actually, no. Well, but those are the people that usually have. Well, I mean, usually know what they're talking about.
Because it's usually you.
Yeah, this is true. By the way, check your email. I just sent you all the notes I have on NeverEnding Story, the movie. I did some research on this one.
Why would you do that? Why would you send me notes, assuming I would read them?
Wait. You don't read anything we send you. Why should we read stuff?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. John never reads the notes for the show.
This is just FYI. You don't have to read it if you don't want to.
All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up related to social media, I saw this about 100 times this week on Facebook and other places. They keep sharing this image. John Cassaday variant cover for X-Force number 48.
Come here.
Oh my God. What is wrong with that?
How does that cover look?
What's wrong with that?
Oh.
Kind of good, kind of bad.
Kind of good, kind of bad. Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. From the mouths of babes. That is so beneath John Cassaday. All I could think is, did he? Honest to God, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to make light of it. First thought was, did he have a stroke or something? Because I mean, it looks so not like his work.
Yeah. Or did he let his son do it?
With 6-year-old son, I mean, like I imagine a 6-year-old Cassidy child could probably draw like that. It would look great. But I mean, that like doesn't look like his stuff. I'm serious. Did something happen?
That doesn't
we
look like a professional job at all. That looks like
Let
something
alone
you'd see on.
Let alone John Cassidy.
Yeah, that looks like deviant. I mean,
It's not.
I don't
mean,
know what the story is. All I keep is seeing people. Now that you've said it, I'm gonna look it up. I keep people sharing it, and then they're using that as like, this is the state of modern comics.
are
But
you sure that's not a meme that somebody put together? And that's
no, you look it up. That is the actual cover.
Holy
I
crap.
can't believe Marvel Editorial's like, yes, go with this. Like, I
But
mean, we're
here's
talking
the
about
thing: it's not on their website, and that is something I wanted to bring up.
okay, maybe it isn't then.
Is that,
Oh, John left.
or he's blowing his nose and doesn't want to, show it on camera.
Pick my nose on camera.
Sorry.
So here's something I wanted to point out about variant covers. Is it's a little known secret from Marvel. I don't know if DC does it, but Marvel definitely does it. Is John is striking over the cover. It's Kazan. Anyone could do a variant cover. Did you know that?
What?
What do you mean? What do you mean anyway?
If JD wanted to create a variant cover for an issue for Marvel, all he's got to do is pay for the run. So if he wants to do a run of 500 with his own artwork, you can do that now with Marvel.
That doesn't seem right because there would be a lot of people that'd be willing to do that.
And there are a lot of people that do that. Like if you go to a comic shop and they have an exclusive variant, usually what they do is they'll hire out an artist that they like to do a cover.
They'll do their own run. Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, the only people I've known that have done this are artists who have actually worked for Marvel in the past. But
and
yeah,
$500. That brings the bar way down.
That's more than $500. I don't know what it costs to run.
And then dude, it's a lot more than $500. So you're talking about a run of 500.
And Marvel makes out because they're not paying. They're not paying for the production, and they count it as sales. So it's 500 copies of whatever. Let's say Amazing Spider-Man or X-Force 48 that they count that as part of the run, as part of the sales.
I gather the person that did the run doesn't get anything, and that's
the only way this whatever works. They sell the books for at that point.
Sell the books for. Because usually the idea of paying for a run is you have created a collector's item. Because all variant covers are is like trying to create scarcity, right? So especially you pay for something. Hey, I'm going to get John Cassidy, one of the greatest X-Men artists in history, to do a special cut. Rob Liefeld's looking at that going, ooh. I'm sorry, I love John Cassidy. Like Planetary is one of my all-time favorite comics. Right, it's amazing stuff. Yeah, his run on Astonishing X-Men with He Who Shall Not Be Named was just really great comics. What a great run on X-Men, and his art is a major. Are you going to be a? Sorry, the dog is being a wacko in here. This is just not that good. Frosty, it's up. It's not. It's not. It's beneath him. That's why I'm serious. Did something happen to John Cassidy?
Well, I guess we'll know soon, right?
I don't see anything.
If he continues working like this,
it's so wild what that looks like.
Or was it? Did someone ask him to do it and he didn't really want to do it?
Dude, I don't even believe John Cassidy could fart out something that. I mean, like clearly, I don't know. I feel like there's something here that's not adding up.
Yeah. Yeah, it
because
doesn't make sense.
Because he's always had a style of his own, but that's not it. I don't know, man. It's wild.
It's very wild, and
looks like Frank Miller more than John Cassidy.
Not even Frank Miller stuff is better proportioned. It doesn't seem.
Yeah, well, now like modern Frank Miller. Like I'm not talking about 1982.
Well, true.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There is a story behind this cover, and I feel like there's more to it than we see.
I agree. I do agree with that, but it's. I do think people need, because that's obviously not the main cover for the issue. It's actually the main cover is kind of reminiscent of the giant size X-Men but this time it's Beast breaking through.
What's this? The Beast. This is the Beast story because Beast has been my buddy Jeremy Feinstein. I'm not sure if he's listening. Genna has been giving me the update on what's happening in the X-Verse. The Beast is basically Goebbels.
Holy crap! They really turned him, didn't they?
Beast is. People were like, "Is he dark?" I asked, "It's got to be Dark Beast now, right?" And he's like, "No, Hank McCoy lost it." And they're kind of like hinting that they're going to bring back an earlier version of Hank because this one is too far gone. So that's kind of what's going on in the X universe now. I kind of regret that I'm not reading the X books because they do sound like since Hickman took them over back 3 years ago, sounds like they've all been pretty dang good. So I should rectify that. Somewhere Don's going, yes, JD, fix that. Read X-Men.
And somewhere Ray's going, no, don't read it.
Well, Ray will just yell at me specifically. I'll get a DM tomorrow going, don't do it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The other thing, I don't know if you guys want to talk about this or not, but
What are you talking about?
I keep seeing this over and over again. I keep hearing this. I see it on social media. I've heard it on a couple of podcasts that I listen to. Like they're saying the MCU is dead.
Well,
Define
if
dead.
they use What If or Secret Wars to reboot it, then technically it is dead
I
along
don't
with
think
the MCU.
so. Okay,
right?
I'm listening to this MCU history book that just came out last month. It's a phenomenal read. For the life of me, I can't remember the name of the author, but the audiobook is really good, and they make it pretty clear multiple times that Kevin Feige is aghast to the idea of a reboot.
Okay.
So I would be surprised because again, it kind of like says, well, the work we've done doesn't count.
Right.
Like,
And I get that mentality, but it's funny because I mean, obviously everyone's pointing to the failure of the Marvels as, oh, this is it. That's the sign the MCU's dead. But is it like,
No, it's not dead.
like, first off, I mean, I know John is going to jump right in on this one, but a lot of people did not like Captain Marvel, right? Like it made money, but they didn't like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Like there's a lot of criticism of that movie.
The story could have been written better, right? Because they didn't really use Brie Larson for what she's really good for. They didn't really show most of her personality. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like the thing about Brie Larson is, I mean, that's total. You wanna run that thing about not talking about politics. I mean, that's a.
Brie
I don't
Larson.
know.
Well,
Good God, y'all. What's she good for? Absolutely. Sorry, John, it popped in my head. I do not feel that way. But
No. And the thing is, again, so I've even said she was much better in this movie than she was in anything she has been as Captain Marvel since or before. But like the other thing is, and we pointed this out, the other two main characters were introduced in shows. Not everyone watched the Disney Plus shows, but they act like you should have, and there's a high level of entry to get to it. Like it failed for a lot of reasons other than it wasn't a good movie or anything like that.
Movies don't fail because they're good or bad. They don't.
Yeah.
You can't tell if a movie is good or bad if you don't go to see it.
Right.
So, and that's the problem with the Marvels is people didn't go to see it.
That's
the
one of
critics
the things.
scores were pretty good. The audience scores were pretty good. The audience was like, I don't want to see this. And that's more on Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's more on all the glut of DC movies that failed. We all loved Blue Beetle.
Thor 3, Love and Thunder was
Thor 4.
Thor 4. Yeah, no, that's what that started to really kill people because
people, the Guardians always kind of existed outside the MCU bubble, right? The Guardians is always kind of its own thing. But like this year, if the Marvels was the one that failed, I'd be like, yeah, okay. But everything has failed this year. Everything not named Oppenbarbie is a failure.
And that's what takes me off is that the one podcast that I was watching and they're talking about it, and the host who's saying, "Oh yeah, it's dead," blah blah, and they turn to him and they go, "Well, did you see the Marvels?" And he went, "No." And it's like,
and that's the problem.
Exactly. Like, and I do think a lot of the people who are saying it are people who just don't like Disney or Marvel for whatever reason. people go to see a movie based on the trust accumulated from previous productions.
Yeah,
These-
and that's also the problem, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, yeah, Kazan's right, but I mean that's
But you
the
can't
whole thing.
But you can't say a movie failed if you haven't seen it, you know?
No.
Right.
Like, I mean, and again, the thing with Brie Larson, she's won Academy Awards, British Academy Film Awards, Primetime Emmy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, Screen Actors Guild Award. Like, she is a good actress. I don't know this freaking, you know, incel hate is against her, whatever. But
because
you know, that part of it pisses me off too. I mean, it's all part of the whole of, you know, the superhero fatigue, this weird thing about Brie Larson, and you know, I don't know, and all the other parts that have come together to just basically take the MCU train and stop in its tracks.
The MCU has sucked since Endgame, with the rare exceptions of Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man.
No, it hasn't. I mean, no. I think Loki was good. WandaVision was really good.
I think the real problem is that we have so much product now. Nothing feels special and no one is a star. Like we talk about this in wrestling all the time. If everyone is a star, no one is a star.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
like
I agree.
when Spider-Man came out, people went, oh shit, I have to go see Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse came out here and America went, oh, I got to go see Across the Spider-Verse. Because like, I'm sorry, I know listening to this book, Kevin Feige's been trying to make the C and D list characters mean something. And the fact that Guardians was such a huge hit showed them that they could do it. But
then the Eternals came out.
And the Eternals came out. And like it just worked. And like it's more of a testament to James Gunn than anything else. Like it's just
the Eternals was completely mishandled anyway.
Well, yeah,
there's no
but
way
again,
you're going to introduce.
but
like JD keeps saying, it's ass anyway. Like the Eternals suck, and you can't introduce 10 freaking new characters and make people care about them in a short movie like that. You need more time. And the other thing is up to Endgame, every movie was building on the other movies that came before it. It was all building towards something. And we know, and I remember like us talking about the fact that the director of what was it? Which was the movie where Thor took the bath? You know, to see
the Age of Ultron.
Right, Age of Ultron, right. So like I know that they were shoehorning things like that in, but again, they were making it all build up to Infinity War and Endgame. These, it's like they're just taking a shotgun and just shooting it in every direction.
Hey, Randy's here. Randy says, shame we can't introduce a character in a TV show hours long to give them time. Yeah, if they did one or two of them, it'd be fine, but then it becomes homework.
Yeah.
Most of them are bloated movies. Miss Marvel could have been a really good movie. Instead, they give us 8 hours of TV, and then they give us 6 hours of Loki, and then they give us 4 hours or 8 hours of Moon Knight. It's just too much, man. It's just too much. And that's what happens is when you're at like the old country buffet, there's only so much you can put on your plate before you're full, despite wanting the rest of the stuff that's there. You look and you go, I think I'm done.
Here's the other thing. I think let's use the old country buffet as the analogy here. And shouldn't it be like the movies or choices on the buffet? Maybe Moon Knight's broccoli. Maybe Miss Marvel is turkey. Maybe WandaVision is stuffing and cranberry sauce. You know, like not everyone's going to want broccoli. Not everyone's going to want Brussels sprouts. Not everyone's going to want cranberry and stuffing. But like, you should be able to enjoy what you enjoy and not have to worry about the other stuff on the buffet.
Yeah, but here's the problem: is Iron Man was the cinnamon roll, which is what everybody likes, right? And they're all out of cinnamon.
It was a cinnamon roll, yeah.
Cinnamon, the cinnamon bun that everybody loved, and they're all gone. Yeah. Right? So you go look for Captain America, which was like, the steak. We're all out of steak. Well, what if I go and look for the Hulk? What's the Hulk got? Like, so that's like chicken. We got some chicken left, but like, we don't got a lot of it. But we got plenty of broccoli. Right? And the salad bar is wide open. And we still have plenty of russet potatoes. That would be Miss Marvel. That'd be Captain Marvel. Like I'm saying, like we have all the accoutrement, but we don't have the main event. We don't have the lead topic. Like, I'm sorry, There's a reason why Captain America, I know they were considered B-list characters before the movies came out, but Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, these were books that were constantly published from the 60s to now. There's a reason for them. These are Marvel's A-listers. And very rarely have characters transcended that. The X-Men were lucky, right? The X-Men became big without being a Stan, like the X-Men were Stan creation, but the X-Men we all know and love is not Stan Lee's X-Men, right? That's an exception that proves the rule.
But that's so what you're saying is all we're getting is a amuse-bouche and not the main course.
Yes.
Right, but the thing is with the X-Men, it's like, you're right, it is the rare exception. It was the shake-up in the 70s is when they really took off as people loved the book. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and it took years. Like Chris Claremont got on the book in 76, and people, it wasn't until like 81, people were like, hey, this book's really good.
Yeah.
Like, and they let him just do his thing.
It's also why we didn't get a cartoon till the 90s. They did a pilot in the 80s prior to the X-Men. Yeah, I just watched the Secret Galaxy did a whole episode on it. And it was like, yeah, but like people just didn't want it then. But then the 90s came around and everyone loved Wolverine.
Right? Yeah, that's a big part of it too, is Wolverine became the breakout character of the 1980s. Yeah. Right? And then his team, and then again, Chris Claremont. Like the X-Men was the book, right? Like you either read, in the early 80s, you either read X-Men or you read Teen Titans.
And yet those
were the books.
And yet no one knows why in the early cartoons he had an Australian accent.
Nobody has a freaking clue. It doesn't make any sense. Well, by the time they made it by the time the X-Men do make it to the small screen, it's the X-Men.
Yes.
Like, it's very much the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont X-Men from, like, the blue and gold era.
Yep.
And they just steer right into the fact that, hey, this is the X-Men. Here's the Hellfire Club. Here's Magneto. Here's Dark Phoenix Saga. Here are the Shi'ar. They unabashedly did the X-Men. Like, but that means something. Like, we have so much of Marvel. I know Kevin Feige believes in just about everything they do, but I don't know. Like, I don't think I care about a lot of these things.
Yeah.
He's got to get more focused. Like, he has to really start to focus down.
So Kassan says what they need to do is what Netflix started: street level heroes on the for the shows, powerful superheroes for the big screen. I kind of thought, like, when they said they were going to start doing shows again, they were going to do something like that. The stories on the streaming would be important, but they wouldn't be like, oh, you needed to see this to understand how it fits in with everything else. But now they said, screw that. These are mini movies that we're putting on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think Marvel TV worked better when it was a little bit separate.
Yeah.
Right? I know there was this big divide with what Jeff Loeb was doing and what Kevin Feige was doing. And they weren't all great, but like Daredevil was really good. Jessica Jones was really good. We loved Luke Cage. I remember we reviewed Defenders and we were all like, eh. And we reviewed Power Man or Iron Fist. And we were all like,
oh God, yeah, well.
I guess right.
And then Luke Cage ends on a cliffhanger.
Luke Cage ends on a cliffhanger that we'll never have the solution to.
Yep.
So, I mean, those were good shows. I mean, and then just kind of like pretend like they didn't happen, even though they're, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio were back, which is weird. But
yeah,
I don't know. Those were, I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. I think they're so scattershot right now. They've really, and it doesn't help that they've been trying to build this Kang thing, but not really. Like when Thanos showed up, we all knew what was coming.
Yeah,
we all knew what was coming. We all knew the Infinity Gauntlet was coming. We knew it. What's coming with Kang? Avengers Forever? Like, Kang? I mean, like, what are we getting? I mean, Kang's never been, like, that great of a character.
Not only that, like, we get, oh, look, they're building the Dark Avengers. Oh, look, now they're building the Young Avengers. Oh, look. Like, nothing has direction. Like, where are we going with this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not focused anymore. Kassan says, I think what isn't being said that stories make characters. That's why the X-Men thrive in the 90s. Great stories. What's on the great story? No, I agree 100%. There's not great stories. And like, I think great characters also make for great stories. I don't think that, as much as I love Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and she's great, that story sucked, quite frankly. Like, I enjoyed the character interaction that kind of made it, but like the villain was very weak. It's fun movie, but it's very frivolous, right? Nothing counts.
It could have been better. I mean, it's
And we
better
only
than the
get-
others, but it's not.
It's better than the others, I'll give you that.
It also feels. It's also one of those that feels like they kept changing direction while they were filming, because suddenly the main villain gets disintegrated in really bad CGI.
It's funny you talk about that, John, but that's kind of like what Marvel has always done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They've always been making massive changes to movies while they were making it.
Yeah,
It's worked for so long that they kind of did it wrong. And now it finally kind of caught up to them.
They call it the Marvel method of making movies. Like,
yeah, but I think it only worked because we only had a few movies coming out each year, and they were all building towards something. Now that they're going in all these directions, you can't keep that straight and keep changing.
They also had stars. You had Robert Downey Jr. Chris Evans is a star. You know, like these guys were stars, or like they're making stars. Chadwick Boseman, if he was still alive, would be a massive star at this point.
Oh, hell yeah. He'd be leading.
Like Tom Holland is
stable
knocking on the door of becoming a big star. Like, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it just there's just something missing. Right. And again, when you take all the main players off the table, what are you left with?
Boosh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's funny, right? Because I think John brings up a good point in the sense of like, when you make a movie where it's like you kind of have an outline, you leave a lot of room at the end for reshoots because you might change ideas as you're making the movie. It's like kids playing.
It is.
And let's be honest, how many times have you watched a group of kids playing and it like they have an idea when they start whatever they're doing, and then it just falls apart towards the end. Like, I feel like that's what's going on.
I look at Stephen again. I'm here. Let me do this again. Stephen King. Stephen King's a very famous pantser, right? He has an idea for a book. He sits down and he writes the book. He doesn't put an outline together. Well, when he hits, he gets it, right?
Yeah.
A seminal classic of horror. When he doesn't, you get Dreamcatcher,
Nightwalkers, or
Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers, yeah.
That was just a movie. That's a messed up movie, though. But I mean, like Trucks, or Maximum Overdrive. Like when he's on, you get The Shining. When he's off, you know, like that's. And again, he's kind of like that. He's like, sometimes it doesn't work. You know, he's very frank about his work. You know, but it when you're just a dude sitting writing a book that people are going to buy anyway, who cares if you have a couple bad ones? Like, you're going to have a couple stinkers. Everyone does.
Right.
With Marvel, they just did, and it worked for so long. It worked. In all honesty, this should not have worked. Like, listening to this book and listening to the way they put movies together, where they really don't have scripts, and the writers are creating these movies, and a lot of movies like that today. But with Marvel, it's like, well, we're at Act 3 now. We should probably change everything. You know, like, they do this all the time. And it's always worked until recently.
Yeah, but you know what? I also feel like Guardians of the Galaxy, you said, is kind of outside of that. I don't think James Gunn works that way. He's talked about that.
He does not.
He comes up with the set list of the songs he wants to use, and it's based around the emotions of the scene and where he wants to go with the story.
Okay.
So, like,
what's Gunn doing now?
He's working for DC.
Because it didn't work. Like, it worked when it shouldn't have worked, right? Like the first movie. Okay, this is interesting. In this book, they talk about how in the first movie, the Marvel Creative Committee, which is basically Alan Fine and Ike Perlmutter, left him alone because they wanted to prove to Kevin Feige that these ideas are stupid. They wanted it. They were going to let it be their first failure. So they left James Gunn alone to make his movie. They fought him on the soundtrack stuff, and then it was actually Whedon and Feige fought to keep it because it's such a part of the movie.
Yeah,
he's the only guy who really got to implant his vision on the Marvel movies post Iron Man 2 or post Iron Man 2, because it kind of slipped through the cracks. And then on 2 they started fucking with it, and then they had the whole kerfluffle with him, and they basically kind of let him do his third movie as a mea culpa. You know, he's had a very different experience than just about everyone else has.
And what does it also show you? That they didn't learn their lesson
No.
Like they should have said, "Hey, we need another James Gunn to come in and make a movie that's going to blow everyone away."
They don't want that. They want TV. It's so funny. They run their film studio like a TV studio, right? They just bring in
Yeah.
guys to make movies. They don't bring in auteurs. Like they want like Feige wants to be the voice that shapes all this stuff. And he hires writers. Like it's like comics, right? Like he's the
Yeah.
editor in chief. Like he's like Shooter, or he's the guy who's deciding what things are going to be. And he hires the artists and he hires the writers to kind of plan, like do that thing, right? It's not like letting Sam Raimi just make his version of Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
Or
but
letting
you're
Richard
you're
Donner
back,
do Superman.
you're
Or
back,
Tim
you're
Burton
back
do
to
that.
no one person can manage all of that though now. Not with as many
It's
moving
not.
parts as it has now.
And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny because Sam Raimi is another great example. As soon as the studio stepped in and said, "We want you to do this and this and this," he's like, "All right, I'm out," and
Yeah.
he left. He didn't want to do them anymore.
Well, they got him in to do Multiverse of Madness, and he was just kind of like, "Yep, I did that," and then doesn't really talk a lot about it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, because it very clearly there's a lot of studio interference going on there, and that's the first time we saw Marvel's head doesn't know what the tail is doing. Because Multiverse of Madness and WandaVision are very different projects that
right.
are involve the same story.
Yeah.
Basically,
why
yeah. And
Is
and
that?
well, no, one is, I don't know, like Wanda becoming the villain.
Wanda doesn't become the villain of WandaVision.
No,
Wanda comes to her senses before she becomes the villain, and then
right.
by the time Doctor Strange is like, "Oh no, I'm the villain!" like,
Yeah.
it really kind of
Yeah, it
shits
didn't
on her
make it.
character.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Right, it doesn't, but that's what they wanted. That's where they wanted her to be for that. But there's no like. Oftentimes, the right hand and the left hand
And it,
don't know what they're doing at Marvel.
James
Kassan
Gunn is
says James Gunn
okay.
is a highly competent writer. I loved his Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Yeah, those were both good. And Guardian 3, his way of planning movies works 100%.
Yeah,
That's why he's doing it for DC now.
and that's always one of my big issues with event books, and I've talked about this before, where they need a character to do something, so he acts out of character how he normally does, or something all of a sudden is different about the character,
Civil
so
War.
it fits in the story. Yeah, in Marvel Civil War is a great example of a lot of characters acting out of character.
Everybody's acting out of character, but Mark Miller wrote it, so we all had to pretend like it was great. She became the villain off screen. Randy, that shits on the entire project, though. If you're going to do the thing off screen or in a post-credit sequence, which were not created by the people that were making it. Sam Raimi shot that post-credit sequence. It spits in the face of the story they were telling.
Yeah.
And the audience isn't going to follow it. The audience
that's
needs
what
to
happened. If you have to
feel
get from
about that, yeah.
if you have to get from A to D, you have to hit B and C. You can't just go A D. Like, we have to see the journey. She should have ended WandaVision in a dark place. To point, oh shit, we need to fix this. Instead, she came to this realization moment of how powerful she was, and was like, okay, I'm going to manage this. And we don't see her slip like, Jean Grey style with the Dark Phoenix. She's just crazy by the next time we see her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it doesn't work. Like,
and not just crazy, Sam Raimi crazy.
which is really crazy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. It just
such
doesn't.
a dark character by the time we get there. Yeah.
And you know who didn't like that? Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah.
And she's right.
Yeah. I mean, she deserves a redemption arc. So,
which I think is the plan, but she might not get that opportunity because she said it. And Feige doesn't like people talk ill of the House of Ideas.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll talk about that stuff a little bit in the news. So,
oh wow, we're 45 minutes in. We should move.
Yeah,
I want to add one thing to the news too when we get to that, please.
Oh, of course you do.
Just
all right,
something in the middle.
I would like to add QE.
If you want to know how you can follow us and learn more about Superhero Speak and follow some other great podcasts, here's our good friend John to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Do you want to be part of social media madness? Well, go ahead and head on over to superheroespeak.com. You'll find all the links you need, episodes of the show, comic reviews by Chris, and other articles. We're posting stuff on there all the time. And while you're there, you can also check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars podcast network. Include great shows like the Pop Prison Power podcast, Colt 45, baby, So Wizard podcast, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Hashtag GW All-Stars, and you're not going to be disappointed. So, make sure that you are commenting on our Twitter articles. Could be a poignant comment, could be a stupid one. Either way, gives you a chance for Dave to possibly mispronounce your Twitter handle. All right, well, I've rambled on enough. Let's head back to Dave and the gents on Superhero Speak.
That's my favorite one.
Of course it is, because it's not making fun of you.
That's right.
Don actually did message me this week, said that his basement is almost complete, and he can't wait to do something with us again. So
I miss Don.
He said he loves you guys.
Love that guy too. He's good people.
Well, he loves you and me. John, he's a little iffy on. No,
perfectly fine with that.
All right. Well, on that note, let's take a quick commercial break.
Yeah.
Let's see how many shades of red John can turn. And
Oh,
we'll be
boy.
Right back.
Some podcasts are like this.
Are there bloopers in there?
Funny stuff happens on set all the time.
Do they ever make videos of that?
Yeah, sometimes.
I feel like they should.
Yeah.
I feel like fans would really like that.
I keep most of my bloopers in my only scenes. What I keep in is the banter. Like just the kinds of funny things that we say to each other in between positions or whatever. This funny thing happened the other day actually, where I was Damien Daisuke. He was like, "Are you working tomorrow?" And I cracked up laughing because I was like, "Oh, he's about to fuck me so hard."
Oh, God!
He's about to rail me.
Okay, that's kind of hot though. Was
he
he just
considerate?
Okay.
He's got almost like a dread style.
Oh.
He'll fuck you really hard, but just the way he said it, I thought that's so funny. My answer was, "We'll see."
And some podcasts are like this.
They getting new fish from? You notice this on menus? It's like, oh, now they got the mahi-mahi. Where's that been? Dude, go read Moby Dick. See how many mahi-mahis they got in that sucker. Zilchy, bro. I'm somewhere the other day and the guy's like, oh, we got line-caught barramundi. Dude, I don't give a fuck how you convince that thing to swim over here. I don't care if you poured nicotine in the water for a couple years and slowly got them addicted. And barramundi, I never heard of that. Give me a real fish people have heard of. Catfish. Swedish fish. It's a candy, but everybody's heard of it. Trout. Tuna fish. I'm just sick of some of this fake fish shit. We got butterfish. We got whitefish. What are you talking about? Where'd you get it? You got an email from the Lord and they said, we releasing, 2 new types of fish. Like it's a new shoe.
But only one podcast is where you can get in-depth analysis like this.
When I was younger, this guy was definitely a villain to me. As I'm older now, it's hard to be like, yeah, Hammond, you spent $23 billion making Jurassic Park. You could not spare more money, $1 million a year for this guy's loyalty. You spent $150,000 just to have these 2 people show up for a weekend.
Right.
You couldn't spend $1 million
on 1/3 of your infrastructure.
On
workforce.
1/3 of your infrastructure and data control.
What the only reason he's a villain because he's sloppy. It's Newman. They'll never feel bad for him. That's what they did.
That's what it was.
They did. If it was anybody else, if it was Idris Elba or Matthew McConaughey,
if it had been Michael Cera, I'd have been like,
You are now listening to Cult 45.
This is Beat 'em Down.
And I'm Random Randy Savage.
Find us on all your podcatching apps like Podbean or Spotify. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Or just go to www.cult45podcast.com.
Also, check out our YouTube for that sweet, sweet video content.
Cult 45, the only podcast that puts hair on your chest.
So for the first, we've seen them a couple times. The first time I noticed that they What do you call a thing, Dave? When they have the AI that puts the captions on? What is that called? Because you've done it with our videos.
Yeah, I use a service called Clippy, I think.
I think they probably use the same one to create that. But anyways,
okay.
The Clippy accidentally translated porn as corn. If you've noticed. It's the first time I noticed that. So I actually heard, are there any bloopers in corn? And it's really funny when you think about that.
So it was trained on Stephen King, basically.
Children of them, yes.
And I sent Randy a clip to use in the next ad, so hopefully we'll get that soon.
Theo Vaughn's not funny.
No.
Like he's an overrated comedian. Like I every time I hear him, people like rave about this guy, and I said, listen, but I'm like,
is that the Mahi Mahi guy?
Mahi Mahi guy.
Yeah. Because he's playing a character, and it's just
he's playing a character, and it's just like
it sounds like you're listening to somebody who's just brain damaged. I just it's
like a dude who smoked half his brain away.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Randy says probably done on purpose to avoid getting a ding from TT. What is TT? I don't know. What's TT? I was a legit question. I don't know.
I don't know in that context.
Titanic tits?
Okay.
Titanic? Did you just make a word? Titanic? TikTok.
Okay.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. We're abbreviating TikTok because there's so many letters in TikTok.
Alrighty. Oh, TikTok. Okay.
All right.
Turn around.
Yeah.
No, we got news. We got a little news first.
Can I insert a few things? Just lead-ins.
That's what she said before the podcast.
Okay, now, look. Just I threw a few things in the host lounge, Dave. I don't think you found them.
I'm sorry, we're making dirty jokes, John. Please start again.
I know.
I found them. I don't want to talk about the one.
No, I know you don't have to talk about the one. But there is some things that we keep talking about the streaming services and the streaming wars. This goes towards that. So I'll just mention a few things and then we can discuss if you want, or move on to the rest. But because I know we've got a bunch of other things first. But Amazon in 2024, Amazon's going to charge you an extra $3 a month to not have advertisements inserted in a lot of their video content. So,
I'm lazy enough to not pay $3 a month to watch commercials.
Yeah, it just but the thing is, you are getting that content without advertising now, and then soon you will have advertising inserted into it.
Dude, I don't understand.
And YouTube did something like that, and YouTube people hated it.
Permission to speak frankly. Who fucking cares about advertising? We are children of you guys children of the 70s, myself child of the 80s. We grew up with commercials on our TV shows. Why do we act like they're drilling holes into our faces because we have to watch commercials? Who cares? Why do we care? I don't care.
Are you guys ready for a very controversial statement that's true?
Lay it on me.
Mm-hmm.
Social media. Porn? No, it's not about porn.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to social media and TV and now streaming, because it's going to change, we're not the customer. The advertisers are.
Oh,
we're the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
People don't get that.
100%. No,
people don't get that. They're like, I don't like ads. It's like, it doesn't matter. The
ads paid for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ads have paid for everything since 1946.
Yep.
Look at all the cartoons that were made in the early 80s before they wrote rules about not making cartoons that were just big ads.
Just ads.
A lot of cartoons are just ads for the toys. Yep.
22-minute ads to sell you a toy. That worked.
Yep.
Our entire generation worships them.
But back in our day, going to what JD you're saying, back in our day, we got free TV for free. You just needed an antenna or sometimes you paid for cable, but the thing is that all the video you saw, all the TV you saw was free, and it was free because they had ads in it.
Even if you paid for cable, the only thing that didn't have commercials was HBO, and you had to pay extra for that. And now HBO has HBO commercials. Like it doesn't matter. Kassan says, I can tell you from a parenting point of view, parents don't want kids exposed to certain ads containing images they don't agree with, but products they don't want to buy. I get that.
You mean like Fred Flintstone telling you how good cigarettes are?
That was in the 60s. And to be fair, the Flintstones was started as a primetime television program, much like the Simpsons. So that's different. But like, this is the thing. It's like ads are part of what's going on. I mean, like, otherwise you can have your kids watch PBS.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I don't get. This is the world we've always lived in. Like, I paid for cable, but I watched TBS and I got tons of commercials. Like, it was just part of life. I don't understand why people get, oh my God, a commercial.
Well, they used to have governing bodies that said, like, you know, Saturday morning cartoons, you can't show, like,
but the whole
ads
thing
for
is,
douches
there's a
or whatever.
generation,
like, you know, it's like, so.
But it's not just but I mean, like, you also want to target. Like, you're not gonna advertise douches on Saturday mornings because, you know, a 6-year-old's not gonna go, hey mom, do I need a douche? Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, you need to sell toys.
But Dave and I worked for an advertising company, and like, if I remember correctly, I mean, you tried to be accurate, but sometimes you weren't, and that's the problem with the current infrastructure.
Well, that's the thing too, because like part of what my comment about where the product, like, you know, all these people complain about information that these social media sites gather on you to sell to advertisers to sell you better advertising, but it's like it's always been that way, right? And people complain about it. And it's like, well, then don't use social media. You know,
why do we have ratings? Why do they have ratings?
Well,
it's not for us. It's not for us. It's to tell advertisers who's watching what, so they can spend the proper amount of money on those shows. Nielsen ratings aren't for us. They've never been for us.
Yeah,
they're for ad agencies.
They want to know what the age range is so they can target those age ranges and the demographics. And you know,
right. They've been doing this marketing.
I mean,
since the 50s.
Yeah, Randy's saying.
I have ads on all my streaming. Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
I have ads on all my streams. It's like old TV. Like TNT would have Bones all day and ad everywhere once in a while. And it's but like and that's the thing though that gets me is though you are now paying a premium for the streaming service, and then you're getting ads on top of it. Like,
but that's no different than what cable was in the 80s. Like, you were paying. Like, think about this. I remember my mom talked about cable. Like, when we had cable, she said, "Boy, in the 60s, they would have these because they were trying to push cable back in the 60s. They used to advertise, have these public services. Like, they want you to pay for television." Yeah. Why would you pay for something that comes over the air rates for free? By the 80s, we were like, ooh, HBO. Like, we were paying our parents were paying a premium.
But you were paying for channels you couldn't get over the air. That's the other thing.
Correct, but they still advertised to you.
Yeah.
They were still had ads.
I didn't mean to, insert big...
No. I mean...
We talking about that porn thing again?
No. So, oh, God. All right, so next little news bit here. Ars Technica is talking about the fact that PlayStation Network is erasing 1,318 seasons of Discovery shows from their customer libraries, and that includes ones that PlayStation people paid for to be able to,
Well, this goes back to the thing you're always saying, have physical media because...
Yep. Who's been talking
if you don't have it in your hand, you don't own it. Mm-hmm.
Who's been saying about the reemergence of physical media over the next 3 or 4 years? We've been saying this for months. Physical media will become more of a thing because people are starting to realize how intangible the media they think they own truly is.
And this is PlayStation Network losing the Discovery license, I think,
because they're doing Max.
Right, and then along those lines, speaking of losing licensing, Spectacular Spider-Man
gone from Disney, which is a surprise.
Gone from Disney Plus.
That's a surprise.
Well, that's Sony grabbing their stuff from Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sony made that cartoon too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this idea of paying a streaming service to own something so you can watch it is complete bullshit.
You're leasing it.
I think
temporarily. Only temporarily.
I think the idea, it's one thing to have a streaming service and just have the stuff on there to watch. But it's another thing where you paid $10 to own a movie, but you don't actually download it. It's on the service, and all of a sudden they don't have the license anymore. So it's just gone, and there's no
or they ran out of space because they have to talk to their shareholders now who are saying you have to show a profit, and they need to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff that that's costing money to store. Server space
shouldn't.
But it's also why I don't even like on my late wife, rest her soul. She would be like, "Oh, let's just buy the movie," and I'm like, "No, let's just rent it because we're not going to watch it a bunch of times. I'll pay $3 to watch it once." Like I don't. Why pay $20 to own it when it's like we're gonna watch it once again in 6 months? I'll just pay another $3.
See, my wife. I'll counter my wife. My wife will put the Harry Potter movies on whenever she's sick or whenever she needs to do something around the house. So she owns them in like multiple variations. Owns the DVDs. Pretty sure she owns all the Amazon because she, hopefully stuff doesn't disappear from Amazon.
We had them all. We had them all saved on the DVR, so she could watch them whenever she wanted. Yeah.
DVR that takes some space. You had limited space in a DVR.
And this is why, like, companies like Sony and Warner Brothers and all these others fight tooth and nail and sue the hell out of anybody that comes up with any kind of home media solution with NAS storage attached to it, so you could store the movies, so you could rip all of the Blu-ray movies that you've got, put them in there, and then watch them anywhere in the house. Anytime somebody comes up with anything close to that solution, they get sued out of existence by all these content holders.
They don't want that.
So here's a Kassan, I don't believe it or not, I think brings up an interesting point on a tangent. Sony has been putting out some banger stuff on Netflix. Leave the World Behind is gripping. Now here's the thing with that. Sony has their own network.
They don't care.
You have to have a PlayStation to watch it, but yet they could make that available on a Roku. But yet no, they still put stuff on like Netflix.
Because we've been talking about this for years. Sony has sat out of the streaming wars.
Right, completely
sat out. We said
they could be a big player.
But and this is where Zaslav has a point. There's far more money in producing content and selling it than selling subscriptions. Because like you said, Dave, we are a product. We are not the end result because our money is finite, right? Advertiser money is infinite.
Yeah.
There's always going to be more budget money for them to spend to advertise, right? Where us, it's going to be like, ooh, this is kind of expensive. Like they really, like we talked about, I think we talked about this 4 years ago when this stuff started. And we said it's gonna go big. Everyone's gonna want it, and they're gonna realize they're not gonna be able to make a lot of money because there's only so much people can spend, and there's only so much that you can do this way. And they forgot that the money for years, the money in TV was your production company produced a television show, it sold it to a network, it got to 100 episodes, then the production company got the rights back and they sold it to syndication. Where the real money came in, because that's where the real money was in syndication, right? Yeah. And we've bucked that model, and and this is why we had those strikes this year. It's because since bucking that model, everybody went, "Where'd our money go?"
Yep. And where's our residuals?
And that's another thing. But they could
the
also
production companies too. They're not making the money they used. They thought they would be able to do this on subscription services because everybody saw Netflix making hand over fist, right? And they're like, "Well, that should be my money. Those are my shows." And they're like, oh, it turned out that what made Netflix super appealing was having this hub where everything could exist.
Exactly.
The same thing as the old Napster, basically, And now you have all these different music streaming services that are trying to control. It's the same old thing. Every time somebody comes up with a good idea, like to democratize this stuff, where the companies could still make money off of it, the companies come in and say, we're not making enough money off of it. Let's kill it and try our own thing.
But that's the problem is they haven't realized they haven't made I know people that work for Comcast and they've lost billions on Peacock. They have billions to lose, but at the same time, it's like you just astounded when they have to show their profit and losses that they're like, well, we lost $3 billion on Peacock, but it's down from the $5 billion we lost last year. It's lunacy.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Kassan.
No, go. You had a point. Go ahead. Put the point.
Well, the point is, if you go back to the Napster days, and going to your point about Netflix, in the Napster days, you could go to Napster and you could find any song, and when you found the song, it would give you related songs, and because you could go into the library of whoever was providing that song and see other songs that they liked, which were probably other songs that you liked. Well, the companies were making a lot of money off of people finding songs they never would have found before and going and buying the cassettes and the CDs and yet that wasn't enough for them. And it's the same thing with Netflix. If everybody just put the movies on Netflix, they'd make a lot more money than trying to spend billions building their own
I agree
streaming
with that.
services.
The problem with Napster, when Napster was a household word, the reason why Napster was super successful is because it was stolen. It was a torrent site before torrent sites were really a thing. Like it was the first torrent site because you just stole the music.
Well, yeah, but the thing was that the profits of the music companies were actually going up because of it. They were selling music they never would have sold because people were finding other music that they liked and they wanted a pure stream, not a low kilobit MP3. So they go out and buy the CD. You know, they wanted the physical media too back then.
They did want the physical media back then too, but I mean, you got to look at the point of view of the artists. There were a lot of artists because of that. Like we look at it from like where the big business owners exist, and not enough for where the individual artists exist. Like,
I understand. Like
people crucified Lars Ulrich for being like this bullshit back in 2000, but he was right. Like you look at the model that's replaced, right? They're getting cents on the stream, cents. Not dollars.
I mean, they could have fixed Napster by giving like paying pennies for each song or whatever, and they would have made billions off of it. But instead, they killed it, and now they control everything. And now you've got Spotify, which is like just killing creators because you can't. I mean, they're not paying enough for any of the music or the audiobooks. Like nobody's making money except the company executives now.
And Taylor Swift.
Well, the music industry's been that way for a long time. Watch any interview with Prince from the 90s to before he died, and he was talking about that forever.
I hated Warner Brothers.
Yep. Speaking of Warner Brothers,
Kassan says I've been seeing Warner Brothers selling their stuff to Netflix, which we talked about on this show. The Batman, Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, Black Adam, Shazam, we're all there. I may cancel Max Reduced Redundancy. We have already done that. I'm a step ahead of you, man. Here's the thing: is like
I just got rid of Hulu, so
we kept Hulu. My wife likes the stuff on Hulu. She watches Shark Tank. When the WBD merger happened, the D took over the WB. So these are Discovery people. David Zaslav is a Discovery guy. His background is Dr. Pimple Popper. So he values that. He doesn't value the Warner library. And quite frankly, he's right. The Warner library has significant amount of money to sell. And when you have as much debt as WBD has, sell that stuff.
Yeah.
Put it on other sites. Get money. I have zero qualm with that. I'm just not going to spend money on your site.
Yeah. No, I agree. It makes perfect sense. So, all right, let's do a little bit of news here then. So I've also been trying to include the sources going forward. Vanity Fair did a whole piece on like the rise of the MCU and Robert Downey Jr. And in the piece, Kevin Feige said there are no plans whatsoever to bring him back as Iron Man. And that's when I went, oh, they're planning to bring him back as Iron Man.
Quassan's last thing is my only question was HBO profitable in the old cable system? Yes, it was very profitable.
Yeah,
he's not coming back. I don't think he wants to come back.
I've seen interviews where it goes back and forth on it. Again, it's the same thing with Evans. Like it's got to be something like it would have to be something super special for him to do it. So no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like every time they say they're not doing something, they end up doing it.
I think if you had nothing else to do, maybe. But I mean, the man's going to get an Oscar this year for playing Truman, right?
You think?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he'll do Dr. Dolittle 2 before he goes back to Iron Man.
I could see that. I could. What more does he have to say with Tony Stark that he hasn't already said?
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you bring it back? It would cheapen Endgame.
It does.
You know?
It does. And comics does that all the time because they have these great moments and they bring characters back all the time. And it's like nothing ever counts. And that's the big problem with comics. There's no stakes in anything because we can't break the toys. Right? They don't want you to break the toys. So like, which I get, these things were not meant to last for 70 years when they were created. Now they have to be IP. And what can you really do with IP? Right? There's only so many stories you can tell. So, yeah. Bring him back as a villain. To hell with you, sir.
Yeah, no.
No, Randy, we love you. All right. Well, not really along those lines. Over on the Hollywood Reporter, they reported that Marvel has settled with the Ditco estate over Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
That's good.
There is no.
Finally.
Nothing about the deal has been revealed, and both Marvel and the Ditco estate have not commented on this. So.
Well, because Steve wanted nothing to do with that stuff.
Yeah.
But his heirs are like, look, we want to check.
Yeah.
And they're like, God, we don't want to deal with like we do with the Kirby's. Fine. Write him a check.
Yeah, I guess that's what they did. They wrote him a check. Which, Ditko did create Doctor Strange. Like, he's a solo credited for it.
He essentially created Spider-Man, too.
Well, there's a lot of debate on that.
I mean, Stan was just doing stuff. Stan was coming with stuff like Jack Kirby essentially did most of the Fantastic Four. Ditko essentially does most Spider-Man. Like, Stan was like, give me a spider guy, Spider-Man, we'll call him. And then it was on Ditko to kind of create everything about him. Like, if you look at the original Peter Parker and look at a picture of Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
Ditko quits and John Romita comes in. Peter goes through a drastic change in his appearance.
Yeah, but he doesn't look like Romita.
I'd say he looked like Romita, but he no longer looks like Ditko.
Right.
Right? I mean, yeah, pay the people. Like, Steve Ditko was super important to the history of comics in general.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree that these creators need to get paid.
But he didn't want, the thing with Ditko is he didn't want it. He didn't give a crap.
It's his family. It's like, we want to check.
Yeah. That's American. That's how the law works here in America. Your heirs have control of things.
Yeah.
The
article's an interesting read, though, because it does talk about how, a lot of that stuff, especially nowadays, is all work for hire, where the laws were a little different back then. That's why these lawsuits actually exist. Yeah. So,
yeah,
it's interesting. Mark Ruffalo has come out. This was on an interview with comicbook.com and said he's hopeful for another Incredible Hulk movie.
Can't do it unless they have Universal on board.
Right?
I mean, I'm sure he just wants to play the Hulk in something. I'm sure he'd love to play the Hulk in his own movie, but they won't. Marvel's not going to do it. They have no interest in working with Universal, who just sits there like this. We'll make a movie with you.
Universal still owns the distribution rights?
They do. To the character, to any solo appearances. Because it's great. And again, listen to this book. They said, hey, we want the rights to put him in one of our things. And they're like, sure, you can do that. You can't sell a Hulk movie without calling it the Hulk. These fools over here. Oh, I guess they can. We will make a Hulk. We'll make a Hulk movie with you. And Marvel goes, no, we good.
They need to make a Falcon in the Hulk movie or something.
No, what they need to do is have a Hulk Wolverine movie.
That would work.
I would watch that.
Yeah,
I'd watch.
We all would watch that. That's how Wolverine was introduced. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah, just do that for us, and we'll be happy. Son says, I thought Disney bought back the rights to Hulk for the movies. I thought Universal had rights.
Not for solo movies.
Parks. No, yeah.
Illuminati
movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. Hulk is in the Illuminati. I don't know. How do you go?
The Illuminati shot him into space.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's how you got World War Hulk.
Like, the reason I brought this article up, and there's my question: do you go back to Savage Hulk now that we have Professor Hulk?
Could you? Yes, because we did. All it's going to take is a traumatic experience. That's the best part about the Hulk is that, like, because we've established different personalities of the Hulk. Hey, James Burton, it's his World War Hulk. Yep. Because we've established these different Hulk archetypes and personalities, you can blur between them. I want to see Joe Fixit.
I was about to say, give us a Joe Fixit movie. That would work.
That would rule. Like where Banner completely loses it and he thinks he's a mob enforcer in Vegas. Oh my God, that would be phenomenal. Give me that movie.
James
Maybe
says,
Scorsese will finally get off his like high horse and do Joe Fixit as a movie.
James says, F Professor
him
Hulk, he's boring.
Have him get hired by Luke Cage and finish his storyline.
I would like that too. I like Professor Hulk. Yeah, I want to see the Gray Hulk too.
I think Ruffalo's version of Professor Hulk is boring because he hasn't done anything and he doesn't want to smash.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But that's we're clearly going. I think we're going. There was a time I trusted Marvel to be like, oh, but they're going somewhere with that. I don't trust that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the explanation that we got in She-Hulk about how he became Professor Hulk was weak.
And the have you met Scar? It's like, wait, what? Wait, where do you
Who are you fucking on that planet? Who was the Hulk laying the big green pipe to on Scar?
The big green pipe.
It's too bad we don't name these shows after the fact anymore.
Oh,
Hulk,
my God.
all I'm going to say is Hulk did a lot of smash.
Yeah.
Hulk smash. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you working tomorrow?
Sean Gunn.
That was a good one. Marvel used Professor Hulk as excuses not to go to Reed Richards. I don't know if I agree with that. I think Reed's just. I think they wanted us to read in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Angela and Sarah. Thank you, Randy. That's why I appreciate that you're always watching this stream. Oh
my God.
You working?
All right.
Sorry. I want to smash shit up Hulk, not smart joking Hulk. I think there needs to be a balance because I do think there comes to be a point where, Universal has very few solo Hulk movies. Yep, exactly, 100%. I think that there comes a point where there's only so much you can do with Hulk smash, and you have to push the boundaries of what Hulk can do. But then you get to the point where you kind of get too far away from the Hulk concept, so you have to kind of bring it in. Like I love Peter David's Hulk. But after I think he wrote that book for 9 or 10 years. After that, you have to kind of go back to basics on the Hulk because you kind of get too far away from the core concept of Hulk.
In Ragnarok, that's the closest we got to Hulk from the comics.
Yeah, the Hulk
the Hulk could always talk. Like this idea that he's just a mindless beast was born out of the 70s TV show.
Yeah.
And brought into the movies, and it's like, but he was never like that. So
never.
Yeah, when they finally brought it into Ragnarok, I'm like, okay, they're going somewhere with it, and then boom, okay, now he's Professor Hulk. It's like, okay,
but I think it's okay because, like I said, I think I'll say Peter David has the ultimate run on the Hulk. But again, there's only you can push the character, then you have to kind of contract a little bit, and then you can start pushing him again. And it has to ebb and flow. And I like that the Hulk specifically has these different versions of himself that he can kind of interweave, like bob and weave between. So that gives a writer some flexibility to do different versions of the Hulk. Because I don't know, what great Hulk 70s stories are there? There's not a lot.
Yeah,
because by that point Marvel in the 70s reaches kind of a rut with a lot of characters, and in the 80s they really start to challenge what these characters are about and start changing lots about them. And I think Professor Hulk is a great example of it. But again, you can't do it forever. At the same time, though, we had never seen Professor Hulk before. But now we have. It's been several years, and I'd like to see them go somewhere else. James says that's why Grey Hulk is great. He talks, and his stories are like fights with a leader. Yeah, eventually he's heading up. No, I agree. Grey Hulk is great, and he's got an edge to him that the Professor Hulk doesn't have. And I think having that version of the Hulk around would be fantastic. The question is where do you do it? How do you do it? What's the workaround? You should do Grey Hulk versus Wolverine in Vegas. Oh, my God. Kevin, call me. Got it.
All right. Last two stories. So, we've got our new Maxwell Lord in the DCU,
Sean Gunn.
So he gave his brother the job.
Surprise.
Okay, I like Sean. Sean Gunn is a pretty good actor. It depends on what we want to do with Maxwell Lord. I mean, Sean Gunn is typically doing a lot of silly stuff for his brother, but he's shown some range and shown some emotion. On Buffy, he was pretty good. So, I don't know. let's see what they're gonna do there. I much love Pedro Pascal. He sucked as Maxwell Lord, so let's see what we got.
And he could have done better because Pedro Pascal can dwarf himself, but
yeah, that's a bad movie.
But that was 1984. That was
so. Here's the question: are we getting the Wahaha version of Maxwell Lord? Because remember, Maxwell Lord isn't straight up evil until the OMAC project, when Rucka turns him into a killer. So, are we not getting that version? I don't know. Because I'm not against nepotism. The skills there. Sean Gunn has been decent. Yeah, and he's gonna hire his daughter. He's gonna hire his wife to do something, and she's good too. Like she's really. I like her as Amelia Harcourt in Peacemaker. Mm-hmm. She's fun. Like. Yeah, she's really pretty. Yeah, she's talented. Good for him. I mean, like all directors hire people they like to work with. Go see a Martin Scorsese movie. You'll see a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah.
Go see a Steven Spielberg movie. Go see a Quentin Tarantino movie or a Robert Rodriguez movie. These people work with people they like and trust. And think about any job.
If Kevin Smith movie.
Kevin Smith is the worst thing of it. Yeah. But again, if you're going to spend months at work, don't you want to surround yourself with people you know and trust?
Yeah.
Like that's just life. That's how life goes. So it doesn't bother me.
No, not at all. We'll see. I mean, I like Sean Gunn. You're right. It's what version of Maxwell Lord are we getting?
Yeah, I don't know. We could get both. One could evolve into the other. James Burton says Grey Hulk versus Wolvie in Vegas is an awesome idea. I know, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, give JD a call.
I'll give him a call. I would like a grant.
All right. Our last little bit of news is there are rumors that they're going to cast Kurt Russell as Jor-El. And his response in an interview with comicbook.com was, he'll take on Marlon Brando any day.
Holy fucking shit. Do you know? I think I would cry if I went to a movie and I saw Superman and Jack Burton / Snake Plissken
exactly
/ the guy from The Thing whose name I cannot remember / the guy from Overboard, like Santa Claus, Elvis, like Kurt Russell is one of my all-time Tango, or was he Cash? I forget if he was Tango or Cash. Like Kurt Russell is, dude. You know there's a Godzilla TV show on Apple right now starring Kurt Russell, and I'm not watching it. What the fuck is my problem? Like, I would. Wyatt Earp, thank you, Randy. Like, this man is like my favorite. You know what? I think he's my favorite actor of all time. I love Kurt Russell. Him as Jor-El would make me so happy. I cannot say enough good things about this. James Gunn is a godsend. He was all right as Ego, The Living Planet. I liked him in that. I wish he was Jason instead of that, but whatever. Yeah. I love this.
Yeah. What about you, John? Would you watch Kurt Russell as Jor-El?
No, I'm good for it. Kurt Russell will hit it out of the park.
He always does.
And he'll disrupt the movie production a hell of a lot less than Marlon Brando would.
He's a fucking professional. Marlon Brando said he wanted to be Jor-El as a green bagel. And I'm fairly certain he said it just to see what kind of a reaction he could get out of Richard Donner. He got none. Richard Donner didn't sell his bullshit, which is why Richard Donner was the man.
Yeah.
Green bagel.
The end of his life, Marlon Brando, all he existed for was to like make directors tear the hair out of their heads.
End of his life, he's always been like that. The man's been a pain in the ass since the 1950s. Like he knew Marlon Brando was one of those talented guys who just fucked with people because he knew he could.
Everything
like,
after Streetcar Named Desire, right?
Yeah. When he like had his probably Streetcar, because the Wild One, everybody went, wow, this guy's good. And then Streetcar, he like burst, he like was the thing, like, oh my god, you're a genius. Like,
and then after that, he was
I am a genius. I'm going to need 6 left shoes on this movie.
Yep.
Why? Well, give me 6 left shoes. James Burton says, I love Kurt Russell. You are an American, sir. Of course you.
Here's the thing, right? You always go to Jack Burton. We all go to Jack Burton.
It's my favorite
thing and stuff.
That's what old Jack would say.
But I remember Kurt Russell in The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes.
And God, that's the most you've ever said on this show. That is the oldest old man thing you've ever said.
Ow! Hold on, let me
God,
get
he's
some of the
young.
other-
Sorry. I am sorry. That is ancient.
And the mightiest man in the world. Yeah, that was the
Man,
other
I
one.
don't know.
They're old Disney movies, but it's where
I
he
knew
got
that.
his start, and it's funny because it's like people don't think about that, but it's like I remember being a kid watching those movies with my family and like seeing this. He was a kid when he did these movies, a teenager, and then he grows into Jack Burton and Snake Plissken and then Ego.
Did you know him and his dad owned a minor league baseball team for a stretch, and Kurt played for them? There's
Oh
a
my
phenomenal
God.
This is like in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. There's a phenomenal documentary.
Hold on.
About
Randy, this is for you.
Will not repeat that. There's a
Did the
phenomenal
movie have sound?
documentary about them, and I think I got to pull the title up so I can recommend it tonight. Actually, for when we do recommendations, I think this is great casting. Like, because again,
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, gigantic pain in the ass. Marlon Brando, gigantic pain in the ass. Kurt Russell, America's dad.
Everybody
America's
loves working
dad.
with him. Everybody.
That's why
loves
he's perfect
working
for Super. That's why he's perfect for Superman's dad. It's America's dad.
All
Should have
right.
been Kevin Costner, but somehow they screwed that up.
At least he won't
Yeah.
tell Superman to maybe let people
But
die.
that wasn't Kevin Costner. That was the way they wrote that movie.
I know, but still.
All right. Well, that is all the news for the week. Let's take a quick break and come back with our main topic that JD has been waiting for weeks to talk about.
Oh my God, JD.
Turn around.
Oh.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
That trailer sucks ass.
That was a horrible trailer for that movie.
There's like no artistic integrity behind. There's no like mystery or anything. It's just like, hey kids, do you want to see a movie? Like, terrible trailer.
About the same as, hey kids, want to see a dead body?
Yeah. Show no fear, or she may fade away. You know, we have to talk about how great Lamal was in this.
Lamal?
Let's go to the song. He was the singer for Kajagoogoo.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right.
it was a duet with I forget who.
Me too, but it's Lamal. It's his song.
All right, so we are talking about, was it 1984 or 82? 1984's
Nothing
The
else good
Never-Ending-
came out of 1984.
Dude, 1984 might be like the seminal. John's being a dick. 1984 might be like the seminal year of popular culture.
Yeah, I think it
At least for guys like us. Like almost everything important happened in 1984.
Gremlins, Ghostbusters,
Karate Kid, Ghostbusters,
Karate Kid. Yeah,
The album
like
1984.
The album
by Van Halen.
1984. The book, like that came out 19. That came out long before then, but it was called 1984. Like there's just this. There's just like a point to it. Like that's when Hulk Hogan's reign as the WWF champion starts.
Indiana
Kassan says,
Jones Temple of Doom came out.
Temple of Doom.
Footloose.
Like, just so yeah, this is like I'm serious, man. This is like a seminal year in popular culture. In both
Terminator,
music. Yeah,
Supergirl.
Yeah. Well, Supergirl's not a good one to admit.
I know, but
we kind of brushed
Conan
that
the
one
Destroyer.
Gremlins, they did not like so much. I made Andy watch Gremlins because I sold it to him as being my favorite Christmas movie, and it spooked him a little bit, but he had fun with it. He liked Gremlins 2 more because it was more silly. My parents took me to see Gremlins when it came out at the movie theater. I was 4.
Oh my God.
I know.
Holy
I mean, like, no wonder I'm this way.
All right, let's okay, I'm kind of curious. So I was 10 in 1984. You were 4. John, how old were you in 1984?
14. Yeah,
What?
43.
43.
41. No. 14.
Oh my God, you are old. That's right. You're 10 years older than JD. I forgot. So
I
that
forget
makes
that you're a
perfect-
full decade older than me sometimes.
So 2 questions. Do you remember when you first saw the movie, and now watching it again, does it hold up? JD, we know your answer, but go ahead.
I did not see this movie in the theater. I want to say this is probably, I don't remember the first time I saw it, but I remember watching. I remember watching it for the first time, but I don't remember how I watched it. I can't remember if this was a VHS rental from when we had our first VHS player, or if this was an HBO thing. I literally don't remember, but I remember watching it for the first time and just being super enthralled. It was probably 2 years after it came out, so I probably saw it in like 86-ish.
Okay.
For the first time, and like
and you were 6, so it hit all the right notes.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect for me at the time. Like when you're a little kid, like again, I was the target audience of this film. And like, so for me, I can't get myself out of that place. Like it means so much to me. And again, I have a film degree. I can analyze a film and talk about its strengths and weaknesses. But this movie's very special to me. Right? Like what little kid hasn't felt alone? Right, and like let their imagination kind of drift. Like I said, this movie was very special to me as a little kid, and I was really happy the day I got to share it with my kid. And it's funny, we were coming back from dinner tonight, and he goes like, "Dad, 'cause he knew I was going to do the show," and he's like, "We should listen to the NeverEnding Story on the ride home," and we sung along to it. It was great. My kids dug it. James says my kids dug until they saw the blender and the microwave. I don't recall that happening in this movie.
I think he's talking about
he's talking about Gremlins. Yeah.
Gremlins. Yeah, that makes much more sense.
All right, John. How about you? What was do you remember the first time you saw this, and did it hold up watching it again?
I was in high school. I saw it in the theater, and I remember thinking to myself, "You horse murdering bastards."
Okay.
Can I be honest? Is that scene has never bothered me?
Bothered the hell out of me.
I think because I was young and like in my mind, they come back, right? That even as a little kid, I'm like, that's a plot point. Like, and I think at 6, I didn't process I cried when Optimus Prime died, and that's one of the few times I can remember crying in a movie. Like, Artax and Atreyu didn't quite hit me that as much.
You have to be past the point where you understand mortality and ephemeralism.
I think,
and at that point, then it hits you hard. But
Yeah,
before
I don't
that, you're
think-
like, it's object permanence. You know, it's
I don't think I was ready for it when I was watching it, so it didn't stick to me.
And yeah,
But Death of the Horse has devastated a whole generation. This is true.
No, the death of Optimus Prime.
Optimus
devastated
Prime
the
is
whole-
what truly did, yes.
All right, and then when you watched it again for the podcast, did it hold up?
Yeah, what you think of it now?
Actually held up way better.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's surprising how much it holds up actually for like a Henson movie, essentially.
Yeah. And it's amazing to see like all the stuff I learned about this.
John's got his facts going to drop. I can't.
Yeah, I know he wants to drop.
I
all
do.
the facts.
This was
he's ready for
originally.
this.
This was originally a German production, not an American
Yes,
production.
yes.
Yeah.
Who
directed this movie? Wolfgang
uh,
Peterson. This was his
what?
American debut.
Yeah, after Das Boot.
Yeah.
This was
What a
after Das
follow-up.
Boot. Yeah.
What a
Das
wild
Boot
follow-up.
is a very serious movie about World War II. Basically
U-boat,
what happens
German
to people
U-boats.
in a U-boat, right?
Yeah.
And this was his follow-up, a kids show.
You're like,
and-
yes. You know who could direct this famous kid story? The guy who made the Nazi boat movie. It's perfect.
Yeah, right. There you go. It was shot mostly in German, and then they dubbed dubbed it in English. It was done before there were child labor laws. Filming was supposed to last about 3 months. It lasted a year because there were injuries on set, including Noah Hathaway getting injured twice, once almost pretty seriously apparently.
They kick his ass in this movie. They really do.
Yeah, no, they did. And for the American audience, Peterson reached out to just this friend of his to edit 7.5 minutes or so out of it for the American production. A guy by name of Spielberg. Nobody ever remembers him.
Well, you wonder why it had that magic touch with it. Dude, that was when Spielberg was just hitting home runs like time after time. He had that pop fly with 1941, but after that, it was all click, click, clip. He was hitting them left and right.
And Wolfgang Peterson, for that, he gave him the Orin from the movie, the actual medallion. And what?
He gave it to Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, he gave it to Spielberg. Supposedly, it still sits
cool.
in Spielberg's office.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See,
research.
I know. You impressed me, sir.
I've got more, Dave, but go ahead.
James says, I didn't cry about Artax and either. I was too angry. The nothing excited.
The nothing existed.
Yeah. The nothing existed. I kept waiting for Gormag and R2 to fight. Wait.
Gamork.
Atreyu, oh.
Gamork and Atreyu, yeah.
Okay.
Which didn't happen until the end, and that's where that thing where Gamork actually lunges at Atreyu. That's when Noah Hathaway got his sight was injured by one of the pyrotechnics. So that is the one take that they did of that.
They got it. They got the one take.
So
for years, I thought Gamork was the nothing. I thought the nothing was the giant wolf.
Yeah. I remember thinking that rewatching it at first, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So this came out in 1984. I did not see it when it came out in the theaters. I believe this was one of the movies that I think I've told this before. Like my dad knew someone at work that had HBO, and he would tape stuff for him, and then he would bring it home for us. And this was one of the movies he brought home. And I remember watching it and just being like, like.
How old were you? Probably 12, 10?
I was like 11 or 12 by the time I actually.
Yes, you started getting. You're already a little jaded.
Yeah. But like I know I've watched it like when it's been on this, TV and stuff when it's come on. Like I've put it on and like I never hated the movie, but I never fell in love with the movie, and I realized it when my rewatch. It suffers from a lot of 80s tropes.
It does. I like
and synth music, but
whoa.
There's nothing wrong with the music.
The synth music rules.
So
I feel that way about Home Alone, a movie that a lot of people younger than me, like within my age group, really connect with. And I saw it the first time, and I was like, a lot of people like cherish that film, and I never felt anything for it. So I get where you're coming from.
And like, okay, so when I was rewatching it, and I'm waiting for the what's the horse's name again? Artax. I'm waiting for that scene to come up, and I'm like, it happens so fast, right? Like, we establish Atreyu as the hero. He's got to save Eternia. Is it Fantasia? Yeah, Eternia's He-Man. Yeah. He's got to save Fantasia. He's got to find the human child, blah, blah. He's riding on the horse. And the next thing you know, they're in the Forest of Sadness and then Swamp of Sadness. And then the horse gets sucked into the swamp and he's gone. And it's like, we don't establish a relationship between him and the horse. It just happens. When you really think about it, right? To a kid, it's sad. To somebody who's like watching the movie as an adult, it's like, there was no relationship there. So he lost a horse. Okay. Like,
to somebody who likes horses, they're horse murdering bastards, basically.
Yes. Now, again, here's the thing too, is like when you establish as a kid, when you have a youth who sees the kid and the horse together, you immediately empathize with the kid, and
Right,
because you love
right.
animals,
Right.
you just feel that bond. So as a child's filmmaker, children's writer, excuse me, you you let your brain fill in the gaps that are already there. But for an adult, you need to justify that a little bit more.
It's definitely a kids movie shortcut that they take. Yeah,
100%. But it also keeps your ass moving, right? Because with the kids,
Yeah.
you don't need that. Man, back then it was this and Dark Crystal for me. Fucking loved it. I never loved the Dark Crystal.
Okay, I like the Dark Crystal, so
I even as a little kid, I don't know if it was the designs of the characters or what, but there's always something that I found rather off-putting about Dark Crystal.
a lot of people say that. I agree. A lot of people say that, and you might have been a little too young for the Dark
I
Crystal.
think I was too young for
Yeah.
that, because the Dark Crystal probably comes out when I'm 1 or 2. So when it's like on TV and stuff like that, I'm watching this and I'm like, and there's no humans in the Dark Crystal, which I think is what makes this movie work. Is not just Atreyu but Bastion. Is you have two kid characters, so you have totally something that you have the character that kids can empathize with, and you have the kids that characters want to be. You have that aspirational character and the empathetic character at the same time. So it hits both sides of that as a kid. Whereas I feel in the Dark Crystal, for someone who's around my age, like I didn't feel a connection toward any of them at first.
Right.
Or at all. I never felt a connection to those characters in that film.
I'm going to say that too. The Bastion, I sympathized with him so much at the beginning of the movie, especially the breakfast scene with him and his father.
What a great scene.
And, yeah, they established the mother's dead, and again, 80s trope, well, there are things to do, son, and we've got to pull up from our bootstraps and move on. And it's just like, and then the caring father. And it's so funny because I didn't experience that, but I know a lot of people that grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And it's like, I get it and I can sympathize with it, but I don't think people today would get that. You don't write fathers like that anymore.
Speaking as someone whose father didn't care about him at all, that's what hooked me into the movie initially.
I never got that his dad didn't care about him as much as his dad is closed off emotionally. This is how I read it.
Yeah, he's checked out because he lost his wife.
Checked out because he lost his wife and doesn't know how to hold on to his son. He's still suffering from the trauma of losing
it's the trope of men have to be men, right? And there's no time for emotions. Where that has definitely changed in our culture over the last 40 years.
We're talking about a baby boomer, right? The baby boomers were raised by, because again, you guys are Xers, I'm a millennial, but the baby boomers were raised by veterans, right?
Yep.
They were raised by the World War II generation, the generation that had to cut itself off from its own emotions because we didn't know how to deal with trauma, right? So they were really hard on their kids. And it's through the baby boomers have been all fucked up that the Xers and the millennials have learned, man, I don't want to be like this. So character, it's a trope in the 80s because it was real.
Right.
Think about how many latchkey kids existed. There's no latchkey kids anymore. Right.
It's funny how they point this out. I see this so much in TikTok and whatnot, and it's so true. In the 80s, there were commercials that were like, it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? People had to be reminded, check on your kids.
Right.
Yeah, go find your kids. And,
And it's I couldn't imagine that. I have a 7-year-old. I know where he's at all the time. There's a lot of the bigger problem for the bigger problem for my generation is helicopter parenting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's parents that can't let their kids go at all because a lot of us were raised by parents and I didn't. My parents were super awesome. They cared immensely. But there were so many parents that were completely, like I said, John's dad completely checked out, didn't give a shit, right?
Yeah. Or when he did, it was not the kind of thing that you wanted. You didn't want that kind of attention.
Yeah, but that was a real thing, and I think Bastion sees that. And for him, I don't think it's negative. I think for him, he just doesn't feel love. There's no love in his life anymore. So, this is a kid that needs this world. This world needs him.
Right, and that's one of the things I'm getting at too. Is it's such a shortcut. I don't think you could get away with today.
No, because it's not real today.
Right. But it establishes the mother was the one that gave the love. He doesn't have that. That's why he wants to escape in the books. and he talks about all the books that he reads when he's with the bookstore. So, yeah,
great scene.
Oh my God, James Burton, you were reading ElfQuest. I remember those. I was reading.
Yeah, the overreaction to the hands-off parenting of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Very hands-off.
And the comment before that was James Burton.
Oh yeah, saying he was reading ElfQuest.
Yeah, I read those. I remember that.
He didn't care about.
I might still have some of those demos.
Yeah, I think James is older than me. I just wasn't. I think I was out of the demo, like the target demo for shows. Like the kids I teach today were like, "You didn't watch SpongeBob," and I'm like, "It started when I was in college." Like I had no connection to SpongeBob till recently. John says you get away with it all the time. Man with his dog. That's how you got John. 100%. John Wick comes home from killing somebody, loves his dog. Dog dies. People must pay, and the audience goes, "Fucking A, dude! You killed that motherfucker."
You don't mess with dogs. You don't mess with dogs.
The easiest
they like dogs better than they like people.
Dude, that movie worked so well for establishing like it worked better than like Death Wish and all those like 70s exploitation films. They killed a dog, and America was like, "You let those motherfuckers."
Right,
suffer.
but here's the thing. Like Kazan's saying, and it makes sense. It's like, but it works
100%.
on our generations because of the way we were raised and the way
100%, because we're all super sensitive. Like the Xers and the millennials are way more sensitive than our parents were, because a lot of us didn't have that, and a lot of us were raised to be like, we're the Sesame Street generation, right? We were raised to be in touch with our feelings. We were raised with Mr. Rogers, like, so we're different. Like, and we see a dog. Like I said, my dad sees a dog suffering. He's like, I see a dog suffering. I'm like, why? Like Sarah McLachlan commercials used to make me cry.
All right.
Did you guys know that?
Here's another fact.
Factoid.
Who was the voice of the narrator, Rockbiter, and Gamork?
It was all the same person. I can't remember who it was.
Alan Oppenheimer, Skeletor.
Oh, Skeletor. That guy was busy in the 80s. He was working.
Yeah, he was.
Him and Frank
Welker.
Welker, that's it. Yeah.
Frank Welker and Peter Cullen.
Yeah.
Those voice guys, man, stayed busy in the 80s. They bounced from one project to the next. And it's the same like 6. Says, I think the horse had a different place in America's heart in the 80s. Could be. I remember there's a cartoon called Wildfire about a girl and a horse. I didn't have a horse growing up. I grew up in the suburbs. I'm terrified of horses to this day. Like, so I've never had a connection to a horse. We would go to the track and watch the horses race. And that's like the closest I got to a horse growing up. So my wife had horses and she loves horses. I'm like, you can keep that giant thing away from me. I don't trust it.
All right. So we establish the mother's dead. Let's go through this a little bit. They also established that he's, been missing school or late to school and all this stuff, which makes sense given the situation that he's in.
And suffering the Stephen King bullies show up.
Yep. The Stephen King bullies is exactly what those are. Like, yeah, it's like a cliche too. It's like, this is totally an 80s cliche. The really smart kid who is dealing with trauma that nobody is reaching out to and nobody's trying to help. These are the kind of kids they tell us in my graduate school courses that you have to look out for. We have to help these kids, not just go, that fucking kid's weird, and just let them go hang out in the attic of the school to read a book all day.
That I want to get to that in a second. Yeah, because he goes to the bookstore, which makes him late for school, and he gets bullied. That's how he ends up at the bookstore. That's right. He gets bullied on his way to school.
And he goes and hides in the bookstore, and then Willy Wonka is like, "No, stop! Don't take the book."
Willy Wonka.
It's literally what he did. It's like, oh, this book, you don't want this book. Don't look at this book. No.
He knows that they need a child's imagination to save Fantasia.
Yeah.
Now remember, the actual book that this is based on was 2 parts, which actually takes the part of NeverEnding Story 1 and NeverEnding Story 2, but they had to break the book up because you can't make a movie that long back then. And Michael Anda, the guy who wrote the book, at first was happy about this, and then started to really hate it when they first said, well, we're only going to do half the book in the first movie, and then they changed a few things because it's a movie. And yeah, he died in 1995 hating this whole franchise.
Which is unfortunate because it brought attention to stuff. Hey, you know who played the dad in NeverEnding Story 2?
Oh yeah, your friend. Yeah.
And Wesley Shipp.
Yep.
And Jonathan Brandis.
It's a good thing they never made a 3.
Tell them we're going to do the movie. Tell them we're going to do
it's a good thing they didn't make a 3.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them we're going to do NeverEnding Story 2, and we want him on the show to talk about it.
He does not do podcasts.
It's not going to.
He does not even respond to messages and say, "Hey, you want to talk about?" And he doesn't do any of them. He never does any podcast interviews. I have no idea why. He just doesn't.
It's fine.
Whatever.
Man's
his life. He could live it.
Just
probably not. I don't blame him.
I say that 3 didn't exist, but there was 3, and the only thing about it that was interesting was that it was one of Jack Black's first movies. Other than that, the Falkor in there is considered an abomination.
It looks terrible.
It looks like a paper mache thing that was done by a bunch of third graders.
Which I don't understand how you go from. I mean, is it the greatest looking thing in the movie? No, but for the time and for a kids movie, Falkor looks really good. Yeah. Now and then to
this was when this was made in Germany, the first one, it was the highest.
It's like the highest budget German film since like Metropolis or something like that.
Right. And then the third one, the budget was cut so much that most of the third one doesn't even. Yeah, it's not even happening in Fantasia. It was all in.
So
it had almost nothing to do with the.
It's like Masters of the Universe. Why can we have Eternia when we can be in New Jersey?
Exactly. Yeah.
Hassan says he never read the book. Is it any good? I didn't read it. Jay didn't read it. Did you read it, John? You normally read books.
No, that's not one I ever picked up after.
It's a German book, to be quite frank. I mean, like it wasn't a part of like American culture until the movie comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and that was the thing too. The writer said he wasn't sure if Americans would like the German sensibility, or was it the director? It was either the director or the writer of the book that said that. I read that somewhere.
It's possible.
Probably the writer. Probably the writer.
That's pretentious. That's pretentious.
That's Michael Onda.
I don't know. I don't know what particularly makes this German sensibility, so to say, but I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. So, all right. So he gets bullied. Runs to the bookstore. The bookstore owner tells him about this book, but doesn't want him to read it. The bookstore owner gets distracted, and then he steals the book.
Gets distracted. Yeah, here's the book. Now I'm gonna go answer that phone. Don't touch this book.
He leaves a note.
Don't touch this book.
Leaves a note.
I knew you touched the book.
Yeah.
So here's a scene I thought was interesting because again, this is a very 80s scene. I don't think you would see in a movie. You would see it cut much shorter. Him running into school and running up the hallway to the class.
Oh yeah.
Like that scene is longer than it needs to be.
100%. Like, especially they're talking about cutting minutes from this movie. I'm like, I remember watching thinking, well, there's 3 minutes you could have cut from the film right there. Like,
right.
I don't need establishing shots of him going up every corridor in the school.
Exactly. Gets to his class, looks in the window. He's late. So instead of going
and
to
they're
class
doing a
late,
test, so he's not.
Yeah.
No way.
So he's like, fuck it. I'm going to read a book in the attic.
Mm-hmm.
Which also is weird that a school has an attic, I think. And he goes,
and the attic from a haunted house, not the attic from a school. That's an attic from a haunted house.
Yeah, that attic does not look like the attic for a school.
Like the attic from the Amityville Horror.
Yes. He goes up, which is funny because like
the Bates Motel.
The key is just sitting next to the door. He lets himself in, and he goes up, and then like obviously they establish he's up there for a long time, and no one's ever looking for him.
Yep.
Like
that's also the 80s. They were like, "Oh, this child disappeared."
I know.
He'll turn up somewhere.
I know. We said earlier that in the 80s there were commercials that told people it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
Baby Jessica fell in a well, and that was the only person there's the only child anyone ever cared about. That is a 30-year-old. That is a 35-year-old reference for you at home.
35?
Blow the dust off that joke. 88, I think. 87, 88. 35-ish.
Yeah, you're probably right. Probably is 88.
I think I was in the second grade. That's what makes me think about it. I think I was in the second grade.
So then he goes up and he starts reading the book, and this is when we really are first introduced to Fantasia, where we get
which is amazing that Disney didn't try to sue them for the name.
Because it's not called Fantasia in the book.
Yeah, it's called Fantastica.
Fantastica.
I think. Yeah.
Disney wasn't quite as Sue happy in the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like, John's right. I'm amazed they didn't try to. Like, they never even sniffed suing this one. It's possible they didn't own the trademark on Fantasia.
Or maybe they didn't know because it was being done in Germany and then it got released.
Well, when it came out, they knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's never it. Honestly, it doesn't seem like Disney's ever given a shit about this movie one way or the other. So, which is weird. 'Cause it's like very Disney-esque.
It
is
is
something they'd be like all about, but whatever. So yeah, he's reading the book, and you get introduced to Fantasia, and it's this fantasy world that is being destroyed by an omnipotent presence known as the Nothing, which is essentially a parable for its disappearing because of lack of imagination.
And the three characters. Well, we get multiple characters, but the three characters that talk, it's the snail racer. I can't remember any of these characters' names
because they're not important.
The teeny, the snail racer, and
the rock biter.
Yeah, and the teeny was played by Deep Roy.
Yeah, I was about to say the only actor you know in this scene is Deep Roy.
I didn't even realize it was Deep Roy at first.
One of the things that Karen pointed out was, because it's funny, we started watching it together, and then I ended up just finishing watching it at home. But the dubbing of his voice, she said, did not match what she remembered.
Well, because it was all done in German, and then they
no. But she was saying like she felt like it was redubbed at some point. Like
it's possible.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious. I couldn't find any information on it.
I don't think
I'm
it
kind of
has
curious.
been redubbed.
Possibly a Mandela effect from her.
Possibly.
She might have
but
been.
Like that was the thing. Her kids grew up loving the movie, and would watch it all the time. So
could have been the auto check was off a little bit more on the VHS tape they had at the time.
Well, that is true too. That is true too, because I will admit that I was watching it on Daily Motion, where it was on there for free.
You cheap bastard! You watched that?
It was on Max. I watched it on Max.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch it again.
The most, downgraded copy possible. Did you watch something ripped off someone's VHS player?
No. But here's the funny thing: whenever there was music, the audio got distorted so that they wouldn't get caught for copyright on the music.
But it was on Max. It was
Yeah.
It's on a couple of streaming services.
So
it's not like it's a hard movie to find.
No,
Dave's like, I'm spending a damn dime on this movie.
It's on a lot of places. I'm sure you can probably find it on YouTube for free to watch.
Which is a shame because the music is a character of this film. Like the synth soundtrack and stuff like that is very of its era, and it's actually pretty good.
But only in the American version. The German version didn't have the Lamal song, and it didn't have a lot of the synth too.
What did it have? Tangerine Dream?
I have
I'm
no
dead
idea.
serious when I ask that question.
I don't know. I wasn't able to find out. But
isn't it weird that a German song did not use tech music? Like you figured the German thing would be all about it. It'd be more tech music.
Yeah, but no, they wasn't part of that for whatever reason.
It's funny. I talk about Tangerine Dream. They actually did the soundtrack to a similar movie. That came out, I believe, a year later. Ridley Scott's Legend.
Oh yes,
that movie is ass, especially compared to this.
Isn't that? But it's not one of. Is that Tom Cruise's first movie?
Not his first movie. It's one of his first starring movies. Okay. I believe it came out around the time of Top Gun. I can't remember if it's before or after, but I want to say it's the same year, so it's like 86 it comes out. And it's the only thing memorable about Fantasia is Tim Curry is awesome as the devil. Otherwise,
as always.
You're not Tim Fantasia. Curry. You said Fantasia.
Legend, excuse me.
Legend, yeah.
Legend sucks. It's a shitty movie.
Yeah. Anyway.
Unlike NeverEnding Story.
I was about to say. So yeah, and then obviously, right, they establish the nothing is killing it. They're going to see the princess,
The
Empress. I'm sorry, to see if she can stop the nothingness, and then they get to the tower, and that's when we are introduced to Atreyu,
And
our
your princess
hero.
is in it. They said the princess is in another castle.
Empress.
The Empress is in another castle.
It was in another castle. And they're like, Atreyu the Great will come save us. And the kid walks in. They're like, what the fuck? It's a kid? We're going to die. And they're right. They all die.
Take a hike, kid. We're waiting for a warrior. I am the warrior. Oh, crap.
Fuck. Well, I guess you can go save the day. We're screwed, which is pretty much the attitude everyone has when that happens.
And here's
they pulled a reverse link. It's like, it's dangerous out there. Give us your weapons.
No, and that's the whole thing too. It's like this is another like weird kid movie trope. Like, okay, you have to go alone, and you have to do this,
and
like,
you can't have any weapons. And
there's all this right. There's all these
here's
weird
some bling.
rules
Take this
about.
with you.
There's all these weird rules about trying to save Fantasia, and yeah, here's a necklace to wear. Like, it doesn't make any sense, really, if you think about it.
But it's like being a kid.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you can save the day, but we're gonna hamstring you along the way because
it's like when you're playing and you're all of a sudden you're playing with your friends and they go, all right, yeah, you're the hero, but here's what you have to do, and this is the what.
So you guys play Dungeons and Dragons, like, isn't this like part of the game?
Pretty much.
You can do this, but yeah.
When I want to take my players' weapons away, I throw a rust monster at them. Oh, sorry, your +3 sword's gone. I guess you're gonna have to. Here's an amulet to wear. Go for it.
You're trying to make JD check out. Talking D&D.
Yeah,
I was really into the NeverEnding Story, and then John started Johning, and
so they give him the amulet, and then they record all of the B-roll that they're going to use in the next 2 movies, like over and over again.
They did in fact do that. They did in fact do that. They recycled that material as much as they could.
Yeah, especially when in the second movie they actually got a Native American to play Atreyu, and it's like, oh, there he is on the horse, white now for some reason, and older.
Is aged significantly. It's funny because so this happens, right? And then we talked about Artax dies in the Swamp of Sadness, and Atreyu's bummed. And then you get to meet Falkor, right? Which is like, as a child of the 80s, it's a giant flying floppy dog.
Everyone with pearl scales, which was awesome.
Yes. Child in the 80s with the addition of my wife loves it. My wife was terrified of Falkor. She thought he was creepy. And even my 7-year-old looked at her and says, "What? He's awesome, Mom." So yes, even my son was like,
and the animatronics were amazing. Okay, wait.
Before
the expressions they got on him, and
before we meet Falkor, though, he meets the Oracle, the giant turtle, and
here's for my Stephen King fans,
which again, no child labor laws. I think they took that. They did 40 takes of that, and that's the other place where Noah Hathaway got injured.
All right, so hold on. Before we, but here's the thing. Again, this is where we establish that what I was going to say Joshua, the boy in the real world,
Bastion
has a connection to Fantasia, where so the turtle's head pops out, and he screams, and they can hear his scream. But it was like, it's one of those things like, would he have really screamed reading a book?
I mean, that was a little weird, yes.
I've screamed reading books.
Uh-oh.
Well, I've jumped up when you get to a really, really good part of a book. And yet, no, I'll DM. It's okay. We'll talk about all that later. But I'm up for it.
Don't do this to JD. He's gonna cry.
So
turn around. Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, the the animatronics were done by a guy named Giuseppe Tuttora.
So it's not Henson.
No, it wasn't Henson. And
Henson.
This guy, Giuseppe, did the stuff for Conan the Barbarian, for Red Sonja, and
Conan has that awesome.
He didn't do much after that, though.
All right,
probably died. Conan has that awesome transformation scene where James Earl Jones turns into a snake. That shit rules.
Yeah.
Oh, Thulsa Doom.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Falkor.
Yeah.
Is he a little too flirty for a luck dragon?
No, he's just flirty enough.
He winks a lot.
Yeah, but you don't.
If I was
as
a
a
luck
kid,
dragon, I would be winking at everything.
When you're a kid, you're not getting that level of.
No, it warms your heart. You feel special. He's winking at he's winking at the kids. Like, you know,
Yeah.
It's for kids. Like I said, this is for children, Dave. Children.
Yeah,
50-year-old children.
There's a
40-year-old
long
children.
white dragon
With
that's
the head of the
winking at
dog.
kids.
With the head of the dog.
Yeah.
It looks like
I mean,
Astro.
it's the same, or well, it's a lot it's even closer to Toothless, right? Everybody loves a dog-like dragon. I mean, like, you know, it's a puppy when you need it, and it's a dragon when you need it. Like, that's
Toothless more of a dragon, but like, because Falkor more of a big dog.
It's too many.
Yeah, Toothless is more of a cat dragon.
It's a dog when you need it to be a puppy, and it's a dragon when you need it to be a dragon.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like for kids, that's like the epitome of my best friend.
Yeah, 100%. You got the kind of, like I said, every kid in the 80s wanted Falkor because again, you love your dog, and your dog is your best friend, and he's also your protector, right? So what is Falkor? The luck dragon. He protects Atreyu. He's a giant flying dog. Like, this is like the ultimate children's movie, right? Especially boys.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. This is geared more towards boys, I think, especially boys of the '80s.
Yeah, 100%.
And they never really licensed the likeness of Falkor or any other of the characters.
I don't really think about that.
But like nowadays, nobody's really enforcing the rights. So if you want to find something, you can find Falkor stuffed dolls and cheese and all.
That's a funny thing too when you think about it. Like they made RoboCop toys.
They did.
Yeah,
I had it.
But
it was that's an American production. This was a German production.
Yep. Yeah.
Still, I'm shocked that no toy company was like, "Give us the license and we'll make you a bunch of money." You know.
Well, they were probably back then. You approached the toy company, or you made your own toy company.
Okay.
To do that.
Let's look at this. Would they have made a bunch? Because what year did this come out? 1984. Would they have made a bunch of money on this? Because
everybody was too busy. Yeah, it's like everybody's too busy
Care Bears
buying
and Transformers and like Cabbage. Well, Cabbage Patch was done, but I mean, like Masters of the Universe was still
and
big.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters. Like there was a lot of toys on the market in 1984. Like it might not have worked, but I mean, I kind of agree with Dave that I think a Falkor stuffy would have been popular. I would have owned it. I had a Gizmo stuffy. The 80s was all about licensing. I mean, He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe.
But again, it was a German
company. It's a German company. Like the German film market didn't revolve around. It still doesn't revolve around.
Again, you're sitting there saying would have done it because they oversaturated the market, but it was like RoboCop and Rambo.
That's years later. But those are also years later. And they were associated with, and they didn't come out till they had cartoons.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, and also didn't have a toy till the cartoon came out. Same with Rambo.
And also remember, like Michael Onda, like halfway through the production of this, he was suing the hell out of them. They settled the lawsuit, continued the movie, but he probably still had the rights to the likenesses and all that.
Yeah. So they weren't gonna. He probably wasn't gonna allow that. Short-sighted, but writers are very particular about their stuff.
True. Very true. I know one who's very particular about his stuff.
I am particular. I would like toys. I would like money.
Would you?
I would like to buy a luck dragon.
And would you fly it to attack your enemies?
I think you know the answer to that question.
So blah blah blah. He goes on a big adventure, finds the Oracle at the end of the universe or whatever, and
finds out Fantasia's fucked. It's gonna go away. He's
got to find he's got to find a human child to name the emperor.
Name the empress. And they're like, hey, the kid reading the book, he can name it. And the kid's like, huh? And
that's when you find out it's the friends you had along the way.
Oh, my
it really was the friends he had along the way the whole time in this one, not just a cliche. And then the world ends, everyone dies, and he's in there with the prince, with the empress, and she's like, dude, give me a freaking name or we're all gonna die. And he does. He gives her a name, and she's holding a little ember of sand. Little.
Okay. Hold on. What's the name?
Moonchild.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Karen did point this out. That's his mother's name.
Yes, it is. Mother was a hippie.
Right. And she said, I don't think the father would have married someone named Moonchild.
You don't know what he was like in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I bet Moonchild had some talents. I'm just going to leave it at that.
You never know who you're going to end up with.
You've heard of the Luck Dragon. Moonchild was the... Never mind.
Stop.
I just got my joke.
You're ruining this childhood thing.
No, it's my childhood. You were a grown-ass man. But then, so he gives her the name, and then they basically rebirth... I almost said Eternia because of Dave. Fantasia from one little bead of...
we skipped over
in
that's
the
fine.
book.
We cut to the chase. Anyway,
we skipped over the conversation with the wolf, and I have a question about that. 2 questions about that. Number one, like everyone who he got along the way, you see his pictures on the wall.
That was kind of funny. Then he gets the last one. It's like, oh, look, there's a wolf. Oh, no, there's a wolf. Oh, okay.
No, but I'm kind of like, was he trying to preserve them? Like, I feel like there was something lost in translation with that scene. Like, he says he's attacking them, but then there's pictures of everyone along the wall. Are they like, this is what I've killed pictures, or he was trying to preserve them somehow?
I took it as trophies.
I thought he was looking through it as his memories. You know? And then he got to the last one. It's like, oh, this is a new memory that's about to crap. You know, I mean, because at this point, the whole universe is unraveling there. So, he's this
right, because you don't
German
get a
sensibilities.
You don't get a real fight with them. You know, you get
well, that's because again, one take because
one take.
Noah Hathaway was injured,
and it's a giant animatronic head.
Yeah,
they did a lot with what they had, but I mean, what they had wasn't top of the line. I guess it wasn't that. It was still 1984. You know, there's only so
right.
much
Imagine what they could do with that today with CGI and.
Well, I'm half astounded that they have not tried to remake this movie.
Yeah.
But they could have they could have done more. But again, and they probably had more on the storyboard, but they couldn't do anything because Noah Hathaway was very injured at this point. His eyesight was in trouble.
Yeah, they fucked up a kid, man.
Did Kassan says, don't they have a life-size Falkor in Germany? John, do they?
Know.
You're the one with all the facts.
I don't know. That's interesting.
All right, so then they rebirth Fantasia from one grain of sand after he gives her name.
Well, see, this is where the second part of the book usually takes over, where he has to make wishes in order to rebuild Fantasia.
It's fine. We cut to the chase.
Well,
you got to get to the end of the movie at this point.
I know.
Because they weren't planning on doing NeverEnding Story 2. And quite frankly, they shouldn't do NeverEnding Story 2. This is the crux of the movie. This is the crux of the story. It's the wish fulfillment of the child. That he is in control of this entire universe. And it's the perfect end where he rebirths the universe via his imagination. And then he gets to use his luck dragon to go after the bullies.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what every kid would do.
Of course. Every kid was pumping their arms because what child has never felt like they were cornered by kids that were older and stronger and bigger? And you just want that power where you can do it, even though Falkor doesn't do anything but scare them. But it's a great scene. Oh, I love this movie.
Yeah.
if you want to ride Falkor,
You were
you can go to the
never
city.
a child, Dave.
You can go to the city of Munich and go to a tourist destination called Bavaria Film Studios, and they have them there where you can get on them. And
Barbarian Sound Studio? Is that what you just said?
Bavaria Film Studios.
Oh, there's a film called Barbarian Sound. Never mind.
No. John was never a child.
John was
not really.
Yeah.
Well, I know either that or I'm the eternal child, basically. So, but
is that like the Ultimate Warrior?
Well, unlike Noah Hathaway, who runs a tattoo parlor in L.A. now.
Wow.
And one of his most requested designs is the Orin.
Of course.
Well, it's a cool design, man. It's that Ouroboros that he's talking about. It's unmistakable. Like if you see that, particular Ouroboros, if you're of a certain age, that's the NeverEnding Story.
Yep.
I was gonna say, like, other than Deep Roy, what happened to like all the people from this movie? Like, did the kid actors make a thing of themselves?
Eaten by the dragon. I don't know.
Most kid actors never become adult actors.
Yeah, I know.
Like that's a rarity.
Well, especially in that era where like there were no, like, can you imagine the trauma of the kids going through 3 months of filming, a year later, and a couple of on-site accidents and being yelled at by a director after 40 takes.
German director.
Yeah,
Germans. They're Germans who are known for their compassion.
Yeah, most kids wouldn't survive that, to go on.
Yeah.
Still, right. Movie's great.
It is your childhood. You
I
are
love
like it is the ultimate 80 movie.
It totally is. Like, and every time I watch it, I get a little choked up because I'm like, man, this movie is just it had more of an impact on me than I ever realized until I got older. And that's why when I hear that song from NeverEnding Story, I smile. Right? It's nothing but positive memories for me of this movie. Like, I love it. Any kid with a big imagination that is creative and has felt alone, totally identifies with this movie. Because you just want to be somewhere else. You just want to be someone else. Because Atreyu is him. He is Atreyu. Atreyu is who Bastian wants to be. Right? They're the same. They're two halves of the same coin. So, I mean, like I said, any kid that's ever felt like this, or, any kid with that spark of creativity is both Atreyu and Bastian. It's a beautiful story, man.
All right. I think that's where we can end it. It's a beautiful story.
It is.
Let's not ruin it anymore.
Sure.
All right. Well, I wonder how many of our audience have ever actually seen the movie.
I don't know. Put a poll.
It holds up. It holds up surprisingly well.
I agree with that. A lot of times
kids today would understand it.
My kid did. He loved it. Like, I think that a lot of movies from this era do not hold up very well. Children's movies. This one and like E.T. and stuff like that, I think actually hold up. It's pleasant. Every time I watch it, I'm pleasantly surprised that I don't get cynical with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I can get pretty cynical. All right.
Well, I get away with Home Alone. Like I said, I have no emotional connection to Home Alone. That comes on, I'm like, it's such a piece of shit. Like, I don't feel anything for it.
Uh-oh.
Gremlin. Hassan says, what is Superhero Speaks Christmas movie pick for this year? Mine is and always will be Gremlins. Greatest Christmas movie ever.
What about you, John?
I would have to think about it.
It's only one
choice. I mean, most of the time I'd go Rankin Bass, but most people don't know.
Which one?
Oh, Rudolph.
They made a couple.
Yeah, the first
Rudolph.
I was about to say, Kassan,
Overtired.
There's only one option. Die Hard. Ultimate Christmas movie.
Yeah, but Rudolph is more as a superhero. He flies.
Rudolph is like an X-Men. He's an X-Man.
Yeah, he is.
He's a mutant.
John McClane is Batman. Come on.
John McClane is, in fact, Batman. That is the most... Before Michael Keaton's Batman movie came out, John McClane is the most Batman-esque character in film history.
Yeah.
That wasn't actually Batman. I'll agree with that. Great movie. I actually like Die Hard 3 better than I like Die Hard 1.
blasphemy.
No, Die Hard 3 is a really good movie.
Die Hard 3 is the one with Samuel Jackson.
Samuel Jackson and Jeremy Irons, where they have to solve the riddles going around New York. I think that movie fucking rules.
It is good. All right.
I think Die Hard 2 was silly.
That's great. Yeah, Die Hard 2 was kind of the series.
Yeah.
Until the last ones came out. Let's
wrap this up. Let's go around the room. Okay. What did you learn this week, or do you have any recommendations? And John, you can go first.
I learned a lot about a movie that I'd almost forgotten. So, okay, JD, thanks for that.
My pleasure.
And it's like I said, it holds up, so I'm happy about that. My recommendations are don't get the flu. Go get your flu shot.
Advice.
And second would be go see Godzilla -1 while it's still in the theaters. It is well freaking worth it, and we all want a Godzilla 0 now, and maybe a Godzilla +1 later. I mean, whatever they're going to do next, definitely want that.
All right, JD.
I learned shit. The Battered Bastards of Baseball is the documentary about Kurt Russell and his father buying a minor league baseball team in the late 70s. It's a great little documentary. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix.
All right. Okay, I learned that JD loves luck dragons.
Guilty.
And he gets lucky when he gets to pull out his dragon. And
sometimes. Not all the time.
I will recommend that you go watch The Computer That Wore Tennis Shoes. It's a fun little movie from the 60s starring Kurt Russell. And you can see where the man who's going to be Jor-El started out. How's that?
Kind of fitting, actually, for the head of the Science Council, really, when you think about it.
There you go.
That's like telling people to watch Sean Connery and Darby O'Gill and the Little People to see how he started out.
What? Was that in English?
Darby O'Gill and the Little People
Wait,
is Sean
was that
Connery's first movie.
Was it?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was before James Bond.
Way before James Bond.
I don't even know what that is.
All right.
I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to. I'm good.
All right. I also recommend that you go to superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast every week. Links to our social media at the top of the page. Comic book reviews by our good friend Chris, and so much more. And yeah, that's it, because I don't know what we're doing next week. I know what we're doing the following week, and then we'll be on break.
Oh, are you saying I get to get creative again?
I have an idea. No, I've got an idea for next week.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
You'll like it.
Now I am scared, boys and girls.
Be afraid. Be scared. Be very scared.
On that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for watching. Don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.